Radio sHAZZBOT, Issue 0301, September 2024, Disaster Man.
Episode 3.
The story till the end. Jelly Goose.
Lurk.
Friends of my life. Replay. Olympic bullying.
A 5-scene improv comics radio script.
J. Drewster Poindexter.
Title Mashicus with Thanks to Millen Cullen. Life on a Plate. Epitaph Records, 1996.
Scene 1.
Open on Kirk Connolly and Zeke Ziegler after having morphed back from being the Disaster Man persona. They have just thwarted the attempted hijacking of a valuable space station part that was being delivered by a Trail Rail Express. Patrolman Bendis is at the scene of the cleanup of the derailed train caper. He is their nemesis, and he has just been demoted to the department's trainee patrol program.
Panel 1.
Officer Bendis.
Fellas, what you see here is just the tip of the Stan Freebergs. You boys already know this isn't the kind of case I like to work during my happy hour, but I guess when my ship comes in it will probably be the Titanic, well that, or else I'll probably be at the airport. C.S. Levant. Whatever will be probably. Work it till you fake it. I always say, be Zen Boomer and act homicide detective. Because wisecracks are their own reward. As so few other things seem to be in this crime-ridden world that we seem to be living in can be said to be.
Kirk Connolly.
That's all well and good, Patrolman Bendis. But I still don't see how the criminal masterstroke known as the Invisible Curtain could have gotten away so easily. You did have him in police custody, after all. At least we did manage to prevent the guy from stealing that space station engine part from that out-of-control runaway express train though. So at least that's one for the spin column.
Patrolman Bendis.
Sometimes I miss the days when I was just a little kid, and you didn't need to know anything except what was in the refrigerator or in the freezer for Brexit. But I guess it's time you boys put this criminal mush-brained master cylinder-minded kook on ice, for keeps this time.
Panel 2.
Zeke Ziegler.
Yeah, and I used to want a girlfriend who didn't know she was cute. But nowadays I just want an ex-wife who doesn't think that I'm rich. And people in hell want the ice-capades, Officer Bendis. And how is this little talk helping us two fourth-class citizens turn back into Disaster Man and to recapture that invisible curtain perpetrator once again?
Patrolman Dividends.
Yeah, hey, fellas. I just checked out his social media site, and the Invisible Curtain dude seems to be mocking you about his escape and his current whereabouts. And I quote, "Carp denim, seize the denim, you insouciant fools. I went to an all-arch criminal magnets middle school to mix it up with you amateurs. I could have just skipped out on those tuition payments instead. For this, I went to all those months of arch criminal weekend, Ovaltine encounter seminars. Take that, and this, and that. Thanks, I'll be here all week. Sarcasm is my life. I hate to be the bearer of bad ringtones, boys, but I guess that's all there is that's left to print. Citizens."
Panel 3.
Zeke Ziegler.
Well, in our own defense, Patrolman Davids and Patrolman Bendis, you had this kook right there in front of you two the whole time too. You could have just scuffed him up and read him his Miranda rights at any time during the proceedings. Although I think personally that he's more of a Charlotte or a Samantha sometimes in the sitcom scheme of things. You had him right there in your clutches, officers. He was just waiting for the next X body spray to fall. That is, if you ask me.
Patrolman Dividends.
Well, you seem to be all about the X's today, Zeke Ziegler. And that's enough to violate the terms of our payroll and your parole. You're just as guilty as any of us in letting the Invisible Curtain escape. But it's a minor detail, really. Oh look, below the Invisible Curtain's head cheese social media site. There's this cute ad, and it says, "People who are afraid of words are often confused by their actual meanings. Take our quiz." How inconceivable that this would pop up here.
Zeke Ziegler.
Say, let me see that Fastbook page. And then it goes on to say, lots of COs are sociopaths, but not all sociopaths are COs. And then there's this cute, mysterious little Zen diagram thingy underneath it. Well, like they used to say down at the Walgreens pharmacy night shift, my old job. You do want your customers to be a little bit afraid of you. It just makes the common sense, really.
Panel 4.
Kirk Connolly.
Well, it's better to serve at a Hardee's than to rule at a 7-Eleven, I always say. How many times are you going to delay our science hero work today, patrolmans? Hey, this head cheese social media site also gives us a clue to the Invisible Curtain's local whereabouts. Or thereabouts. Look at that URL address. We'll need to set down a parameter in his district. It looks like he's living on the barbershop and automotive parts store side of town.
Patrolman Dividends.
Now hold on, we'll do the police work here. There's a neighborhood health club on his people you might want to, but no. Contacts list. We want you boys to go where the girls are working in the middle of the afternoon. but where the boys aren't working in the middle of the afternoon. We want you citizens to search the health clubs in that part of town.
Kurt Connolly.
Say, I have a hunch. And judging by his vacation photos, I think the invisible curtain might be a workout nut too. I want you boys working undercover at these health spa clubs until we can tighten this dragnet a little bit tighter. We've got to stop him before he tries to steal any more of these outer space spaceship parts. Those spaceship things are for rich people's use only. Panel 5.
Zerk Ziegler.
It shouldn't really be a problem there, Patrolman Bendis. But say, when did we, as Disaster Man's two-person secret identity, start taking orders from these two mere beat-up cop neighborhood patrol personnel? It's like another episode of Tom Waits. Don't tell me, in here again today. It's almost like the logic has been drinking, or the hyperbolic meta-hysterical reality needs another haircut.
Zeke Ziegler.
Yeah, and more than usual, Kirk old buddy. These cops are turned up to an even louder 11 button on the maroon zap level of stupid with a vengeance. Why should we have to capture the same criminal 2 times today? Besides, we just want to go back home and work on our website, in strictest confidence, you know. We're trying to drum up some better paying social causes for our science hero gig as the Disaster Man. Sheesh.
Panel 6.
Patrolman Bendis.
Well, the city police force is kind of a little short-handed these days, boys. No thanks to some recent local bad publicity that you might have heard about in your travels. And I hate to be a stickler for the traffic details, but I, Patrolman Brainy Marcos Bendis, hereby deputize you 4th-class citizens to be honorary detectives of the Cleveland Police Department.
Patrolman Dividends.
There. Now you won't have to see any action as those super dudes in this entire episode. Just like in all those unfortunately unactionable, deconstructivist, marbled comics book back issues that Patrolman Bendis' dad, Mr. Bendis Sr., was responsible for in the mainstream 1990s comics book eras. Now, go for it. And do your worst, fellas. These rich people space programs are counting on you.
Zeke Ziegler.
Glosh.
Kurt Connolly.
Glosh.
Zerk Ziegler.
So like, do we just pay the cashier for these neat badges and these chill-out new undercover uniforms on our way out of this train wreck, or something?
Scene 2.
At the Internet Criminal Wing of the Nebraska Island State Prison, the criminal operative known as the BMX Bandit schemes to convince secret government agent Leon Buster Rhymes to get him a weekend pass for outside of the Nebraska Island prison equal. It is the occasion of his 12-year-old daughter's birthday. The internally corrupt Internal Affairs Department of the government agency schemes to help with the internet criminal's weekend pass and/or his escape.
Panel 1.
Meanwhile,
On an intentionally scrambled, maximum security cell phone call-in line, an exchange between the cybercriminal double agent known only as the BMX Bandit 2 and the covert government operative Lee and Buster Rhymes is in mid-occurrence at the Nebraska Island Security Prison off the coast of Cleveland, Ohio. It seemed like only yesterday.
the BMX Bandit 2.
Mad respect, Agent Rhymes. But how can President Moscow Mouse have had 10 writers writing for him on his most recent concert tour public appearance? It's said that an artist writes everything down, and that a writer writes down everything. But I'm still on that first one though, really.
Panel 2.
Agent Lee and Buster Rhymes.
Oh hi, the BMX Bandit. I'm glad that you're in such a play-filled mood today. Well, by your standoffs, anyway. Are you still working on that autoerotic biography of yours? Everybody wrecks their first vehicle. You're basically supposed to... Smashing. Listen, what I want to talk to you about. I got this email in my secret FDA secret agent Dropbox, and it says you want the incorporation to break you out of the Nebraska Island State Prison for this upcoming weekend, so that you can go do a birthday party at your 12-year-old daughter's birthday party on the outside of town in the suburbs. Is that it?
The BMX Bandit 2.
Well, my Marie is actually 10 years old. But yeah, it's like she's going on like about 85 really. Yeah, I need to get out of here for a few days anyway, kiddo Agent Rhymes. And my daughter's birthday party seems like as real decent an excuse as any. When I was a kid, you'd play Space Station and not go out for 2 or 3 days. But today, these kids like mine play that PlayStation and don't go out for like 3 or 4 years. Plus, I haven't seen her in like ages. Besides, I think that I'm getting highway streptococcus just sitting in here behind these prison bars with these other infectious criminals. I've not exactly been living in my own private Aspen, Colorado there. Oh, Agent Rhymes.
Panel 3.
Agent Rhymes.
While you did get the canceled X-Mass cards with the automatic weapons and the 8 tiny reindeers we had her send to you, didn't you? I mean, we've been keeping up with our end of the bargain. Are you still making progress on the Beetlejuice space lasers that we've been, encouraging you to develop and design in the, hidden secret laboratory here at the prison? that we provided for you secretly and free of cost. Like we said we would.
The BMX Bandit 2.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess so. I can play Tetris on the Photoshop 360 now. I mean, that's real progress, right?
Agent Rhymes.
You know, Mr. BMX Bandit 2, you're a lot safer on the inside of that federal prison than on the outside of it. Oh, we could have put you in a private for-profit healthcare facility. Oh, but one that refuses to acknowledge the COVID-19 restrictions. But then you would have had to do community service hours as an unlicensed empty for a while. And see then you driving an Uber ambulance instead. It's a whole different Jehovah's Relocated Witness package tour, really. Oh, you see, there's an equivalency adjustment chart that they make us fill out. We try to follow it like the younger agents say. It might even be federal pay. You wouldn't want to be an Uber ambulance driver on the weekends. Oh, would you underscore?
Panel 4.
The BMX Bandit 2.
Yeah, anyway. While your COVID secret government operation is still on the outside of that big neglected electronic fence outside of my cell phone waiting area, can you just do me this one favor?
Agent Rhymes.
Yeah, what is it, Mr. BMX Bandit 2? You know, the agency doesn't do federal hostages that many flavors all that often. This is privileged information. We're not made out of flavors or something.
The BMX Bandit 2.
Well, hey, I dropped a few bills on the New England Mesomorphs game for next Sunday. They play the heavily flavored San Diego Ectomorphs at GE Science Fiction Stadium, too. I don't know what I was thinking, really. I don't care about the game itself. It's the Power Mad Fantasy Rotisserie League that I usually bet on. I guess I just clicked on the wrong menu bar on the Federal Prisoners Wagering app again, and I placed a wager on. Well, you know these local games? I bet that the announcer's mic would short out before the second inning, and that he's get medically electrocuted. If just for a minute, you know how these double standard, double jeopardy betting clauses work out. It's never happened before. But you know these local games. And before the game unfolds, I'd like to place the same amount I has bet on this other, different bet on the Power Mad Fantasy Rotisserie League Gambling Community Bulletin Board instead.
Panel 5.
Agent Rhymes.
Heck, our secret covert government operation agency also bet on that game. The incorporation placed a bet that local game announcer Mike Endomorphs will confuse the play-by-play with the color commentary on the air. Again, you know how these local games are, you just bet on the players. And we bet that he'd have an on-the-air blow-up that would end up going viral and cost him his job and then get him cancelled with his angry on-the-air meltdown mob enthusiast listeners. The agency is way ahead of you, Mr. BMX Bandit 2. The entire department has bet on that mishap in the office pool. Ours isn't a double standard double jeopardy course, it's more of a 5-to-1, 1-in-5 shot that the local game announcer even gets out alive. But you know how these power-mad fantasy rotisserie league games are sometimes.
The BMX Bandit 2.
Fine. Thanks. Agent Lee and Buster Rhymes. You guys in the department are doing some amazing things with the Power Mad Fantasy Rotisserie League game betting. Look, can you maybe get me out of here to see my kid's 10th birthday party celebration too? It is kind of a special occlusion. And hey, I know it's not much of a subplot really, but maybe we could work in some kind of a Victriola's era or Elizabethan era plot twist, the unlikely mistaken identity of some unusual twin siblings, or something somewhere in there. Like on the Golden Geeks or Empty Best or something. Maybe in a couple of pages. But the tetherball really is in you guys' legal court about this one though. Agent Kiddo.
Panel 6.
Agent Rhymes.
There's a hapless, hijacked prison laundry truck caper leaving the vicinity from your incarceration wing in about 10 minutes. It should take you to the next checkpoint on the way to see your 10-year-old daughter birthday party. Equal codename BMX Bandit. Keep up the good covert scientific research operations, dude. But we're really going to need some progress on that Beetlejuice space laser.
Teenager girl's voice.
Well, I only guess that I have an opinion, Stacy Q. Only I don't know exactly what it is yet. But I guess it goes here, so here it goes. If you don't see the clutter, so to speak, then what you need in a boyfriend is someone who only sees the clutter, so to speak. You know what I'm saying, Stacy Q?
Agent Rhymes.
Wait just a second there. I think someone's taped the lines in and has been listening to everything that we've been talking about. I think we might have an additional assignment for you here, Mr. BMX Bandit. Before we can greenlight the Stowaway laundry truck to the 10-year-old kid's birthday party scenario, Mr. BMX Bandit.
Scene 3.
The boys decide to join a team of superheroes and look online and on Cretan's list for one to join. But spam calls prevent them from using their cell phones to call the numbers.
Panel 1.
Sir Sigler.
Why can't I be more into the wise old rabbit-faced women and less into the cute little penthouse bunny rabbits who have no intention of ever reproducing with me? But I guess if I could have the pick of the litter like you can, I might not have the same problems and the same fundamental conceits that you do, Kurt Connolly. Do you think that she's just going to wait around for you? I think maybe that Patrolman Dividends character really likes you, dude, and not just as a suspect. And I think maybe you'd like to be asking her the same kinds of questions that she asked you after the dance yesterday.
Kirk Connolly.
Why don't you put that fast book? People you might think you might like to. No, never mind. Photo search away, Zerg Ziegler, and do something to help me. Instead, while we're undercover here at the health club, we don't have to stay undercover too when we talk to each other about the case. That's the 5th Crazyfornia blend word salad that you've sputtered in the last 2 minutes. Why don't you straighten out and start acting official undercover police business instead? I think the straights are beginning to suspect that somebody isn't fish food.
Panel 2.
Kirk Connolly.
Oh look, here comes another set of stand-up comedy customers for us to check in and to check out, too. Let's see if we can't grill one of these food eaters for some information about the Invisible Curtain's last known whereabouts.
Zerg Ziegler.
I feel kind of like we're in a forgotten 1890s buddy cop movie with all this undercover stuff. Kirk Connolly. I can't believe that we're getting away with all this so far. It's like we're Tango and Cash, or Stillers and Wilsons, or even Stanislavski and Hutchinson on a Brooklyn 99 Luft Balloon stakeout. I guess I won't believe it until we get to the big payday payout part, though, but I guess I'm a little unclear on the concept, really.
Panel 3.
Meanwhile, in the health club's locker room, present day.
Trixie, the first fitness instructor.
You know, Dixie, I don't like the look of those 2 new hirees. The ones that Scott Snot, the hiring manager, just gave a pair of front-end desk jobs to. And from riding from off the street like that, really, you know what, Dixie? I think they might even be undercover cops, and that they might even be hot dogs on the trail of your next-door neighbor's brother-in-law, the anti-science, anti-hero, mad scientist who calls himself the Invisible Curtain.
Dixie, the second fitness instructor.
Yeah. And how are we ever going to plot the hostile takeover of this chain of health spas with our garage band, illegal terrorist supermodel cabal if all of these cops are going to be sneaking around, asking questions and stirring up trouble?
Trixie, the first fitness instructor.
I guess I'll have to talk to Steve Snot, the hiring manager, about this suspicious situation first. Always use proper channels. Don't you know? But the blonde one is kind of cute.
Panel 4.
Later.
Zerg Ziegler.
You know, it's funny I should say that. I mean, this is by no means an endorsement of the Moscow Mouse Club or of those toxic go-on squads' neon-nasty propaganda tactics. But anyway, this Kabbalah Harris G book has really been changing my way of looking at things. I'm still with the resistance, and I'll always stand with the opposition, Kirk Connolly. You know they are only here to rescue us from ourselves, really. But listen, here's an excerpt from the latest Kabbalah Harris G book. Here, let me try to read this to you.
Kirk Connolly.
Well, I always thought we lived in Cleveland not because we needed to or because we have to, but because we're supposed to because of some oversight by the divine forces that are involved. So sure, it couldn't get much weirder, dude, sure. Go ahead and enlighten me, my sweet brother.
Panel 5.
Zerg Ziegler.
Okay, where's that part in her new G book? Right here. And she writes, if an argument lasts longer than 5 minutes, then both sides have won because the fact that it stopped being a disagreement of ideas and became its own little thing. A disagreement about a disagreement, that the argument is now about the argument, it has become the argument, and that in itself has now become its emergent truth. And then that same in itself is now the main takeaway from the experience. We had an argument, it doesn't even matter what the argument was about, is only the beginning of the discussion of processing this idea.
Kirk Connolly.
That reminds me of the waiter's dilemma in logic and game and restaurant theory. It's like the lunch rotation logic game that if both sets of 2 customers arrive at a restaurant at the same time, then the question becomes, which table should I wait on last? See, this is the deep do stuff here, kiddo.
Panel 6.
And suddenly, at that same health club front-end check-in desk, minutes later,
Clue.
and after a large and exciting paroxysm of plumage and smoke and flame and expensive sound effects has suddenly appeared and disappeared. The chaos subsided, and 2 lone objects have emerged from within its scintillating carnage.
The Phantom Dentist.
Hi, the shared alter egos of the Disaster Man persona, or we're the Phantom Dentist and Officer Brain, and we represent the Legion of Vigilante Champions LLC. We have seen your audition reel to join our heroic superhero team, and we accept your challenge.
Officer Brain.
Say, this isn't a bad time for this, is it? You know, because we can come back at a more convenient time for you guys. if you find that that's necessary.
Zirk Ziegler.
Well, I guess our cover has been blown on this undercover gym spa health club caper, Kurt Connolly. I guess we might as well kiss those comfortable weekly box store paycheck dividends goodbye at this point.
Kirk Connolly.
I hate to seem just as along for the ride as the expressions on the faces those ZZ Top musicians were wearing in the band's 3 or 5 videos for their hit and run hit album, Equivocator. From the bygone MTV days of ambiguity. No one remembers the classics anymore. But I guess you're right this time at least. Zeke Ziegler. Old buddy.
Zirk Ziegler.
Oh, hi girls. Maybe we should just conduct this little opening interview in the alley in the back of the Health Spa Fitness Center instead. The Legion of Unhinged Vigilante Science Heroes LLC, is it?
Scene 4.
Meanwhile, the invisible curtain schemes to steal another part of the experimental space station, and the boys are sent to a train yard again to stop him.
Panel 1.
Caption:
And still later, in the back alley of the Health Spa Fitness Center.
Kurt Connolly.
Well, here we are in the back lot of the Health Spa Fitness Center. And just look at the devastation with all these turned over trash cans and scattered newspapers everywhere. Anyone who would make the back alley of a Health Spa Fitness Center look like this should be taken out and given their shots.
Officer Brain.
So anyway, you sent in your audition reel to join our heroic super team. And the people who make those kinds of decisions have passed the video clips unto us. Do you have any more highlight reels that you might be of interested in submitting before we forward the initial tapes to our hiring group, the Federated Legion of Hiring Science Hero Enthusiasts of Super Fandom, but not somehow magically associated with the Post-Minstrel Resource Group, RNC, or the Mothers Against Dungeons and Dragons, and in any incapacity either implied or made explicitly implicit whatsoever? Well, do ya, punks?
Panel 2.
Kurt Connolly.
This must have been done behind our backs and anonymously, and or without our knowledge. Officer Brain, sir. We have talked about sending something in, but of course we're slackers, sir. We never really got around to sending any audition reel, at least none that we're aware of, sir.
Zirk Ziegler.
Yeah. This is all just wishful thinking on your behalf, actually, sirs. We're currently helping some of the local police patrolmen work on a case. We've been especially deputized and everything. This is still just a little too soon, isn't it? I mean, we're the Disaster Man phenomena and everything, end quote. But we're indie rock to the bone. We don't even do the t-shirt cannons yet.
Panel 3.
Officer Brain.
You love fame and fortune, boys. In New York, New York. You're never less than 60 feet away from a pizza rack. No wonder people flock there. I think what I'm trying to say is, what we're doing at the top of the food chain is anybody's guess, really.
Madame Empath.
But you know, gang, secretly, every star is a dead star on the inside. No, wait, I don't see how that could be right. The sun is a mass of incandescent gas, and it's a middle-aged and middle-sized star too, and it's still alive. Really, technologically speaking, dudes, wow. How much did I pay for that Mike deGrossi Tyson correspondence course on the heavenly bodies anyway? End quote. Well, only about $4,000 a semester, I guess. Sheesh. I want my dreams back too, please, Mr. Eternity itself.
Officer Brain.
Oh, that's Madame Empath. She's the acting secretary of the Legion of Vigilante Champions LLC. Some days we hardly know that she's there, and yet on other days she just appears, and it's like all this random shite she just churns out with. What the actual fact, Julian? Somebody get her an oxymbic or something. What's so funny, Haas?
Panel 4. Madame Empath.
Well, boys, an artist paints a picture of a tree, not always because he sees a picture of a tree necessarily, but because he sees a place that needs a picture of a tree, and maybe it is only later, when he has drawn more trees, that he begins to grow spiteful of another artist's picture of a tree. I just wish I hadn't done so much SP this morning, you guys.
Officer Brain.
Joseph, Mary, and Jeepers Creepers. She's like a 6-year-old pestering you with knock-knock jokes on a 9-hour commuter airline flight to downtown Dulles-Ville International Airport, just west of Crazy Town, Nikkei. And that's been your approach all along, hasn't it, Julian? I know that look. Gee, oh now, I'm out of order. Well, if it's any compensation, you're getting to be just a little too much for my brain as well right now too, darling.
Panel 5.
The Phantom Dentist.
It might be better at this moment to remind you to check that, Officer Brain, that Madame Empress does outrank you in the Legion of Vigilante Champions, LLC. And she does pull much higher in the ratings at the Hall of Legacy Supporters annual conference of Meta-Human Science Hero Boosters Societies, even if it is just a fan site. But who's your noble comrade in this situation? Me, oh.
Zerk Ziegler.
You know those riots that sometimes break out at soccer stadiums? Well, Dr. Kirk Connolly here is a research scientist, so he studies them, and he even causes them to break out for his research purposes. So before this situation tragedy, doku comedy can get any more dysfunctional, why don't you jokers just buzz the F off? And oh, I'm sorry, was that out loud?
Kirk Connolly.
Sorry team, but like my better half-wit side said right there, Disaster Man is an indie rock situation to the bones. We're an anti-hero, super sense around, work around, routine. We just wouldn't be interested in joining your oi band, with or without the shining new guitars.
Panel 6.
The Phantom Dentist.
My mental floss powers of bedside manner perception indicate that the Disaster Man persona is putting up a great indentured hesitation at the suggestion that he be commissioned with the Legion of Vigilante Champions LLC. I am sensing a deep resistance in the cosmic dental chair. His thoughts are like the drill work sergeant calling the left back molar hopelessly abscessed. Is he even worthier of further consideration? Team, in other words, F yows. Yours effing bozos for brains.
Panel 6.
Madame Empath.
Well, even the greatest of the high school popularity social media dance contest wars might not be right for every single dancer warrior at every single time. Mean comrade, the Phantom Dentist. It is perhaps for the best that Disaster Man be cursed with silence at the karaoke kamikaze night battles, rather than he should actually take the time to light the candle of self-reflection that would bring him into ordinary eternal daylight. Well, your move, your loss, cream puffs.
Kirk Connolly.
Hey, wait, stop. Okay, really, now. Don't disappear on us. Science fiction superheroes. We were just kidding. Plus, we really could use the jobs. And the Underwater Diners Club vouchers that such an upgrade might give us. Well, for tonight, really. Personally, I got a hotline on a hot pair of fitness instructors. If they'd still have us on a thermonuclear thermometer raising date after this sudden midday job routine interruption. The shorties, right?
Zerk Ziegler.
Hey, Madame Empress. I googled androgynous Mozart one time and I found out that he was also a gifted stage mimic, too. The kind of guy who could do an impression of anybody else's tunes. But it was kind of like a hidden talent for the guy. See, not that any of Mozart's voice recordings ever got much play or national release of the fame and attention that this aspect of his talent might have actually deserved. Don't ya know? It was the 1780s after all. Ah, but doesn't that make you hot, Madame Empress? Well, individual results might vary, but Mozart did compose some pretty chill tunes during that time, too, despite all of that other stuff. Hey wait, stop! Where are you kids running off to now? This is my last-ditch effort here.
Kirk Connolly.
It's too late. The Legionnaire's disease of socially vigilant playboys for hire, LLC, has disappeared into that maelstrom holograph of molten ectothermology. Copyrights pending. So I guess we blew it with them and we lost our big break in the science hero business. But I hear that the big leagues won't even look at you if you're over 29 years old anyway. I guess the indies were all we ever had to begin with. Can I get an ahem?
Zerk Ziegler.
Well, let's just get back to our undercover cops' employment inside the building at the Health Spa Fitness Center, as best we can. Maybe we still have part-time jobs on the inside of this ill-fated flight fandango. And anyway, that blonde fitness instructor was kind of cute. I'd like to make her bop for my Adam's apples in the garden of urbane delights. Speaking of the demon barber, so to speak.
Scene 5. Panel 1.
Caption. Meanwhile, only back at the Nebraska Island State Prison. Instead,
The BMX Bandit 2.
So, it was my own tap dancing kid, tapping the cell phone lines here at the federal prison. There's your guilty third-part caller right there, Agent Rhymes. See, those cell phone tap dancing lessons must have been right on point after all. She maybe just forgot that when she tapped the lines, that she must have accidentally rewired the entire federal prison phone Intel communication systems by mistake. Never press those random buttons, kid. But I told you that she was like 10 years old, going on like 85 years young, didn't I? So is that laundry truck escape route still available so that I can get to the kid's 10th birthday anniversary celebration? Or what?
Agent Lee and Buster Rhymes. Well, if your own daughter is that much of a savant with the cell phone lines, then maybe she should be incarcerated in this federal prison with you, so that she can maybe accelerate your research and development of the Beetlejuice space laser. At least, I'm just spitballing some ideas here, really. I'm just thinking out loud. But how is your kid at her elementary school behavioral transactions? Does she even jaywalk? Well, maybe the feds can bring her in for that. But maybe I should take a walk down to the writer's room and ask them what they meant by that last one. I don't know. But it didn't quite fit in with the other continuity.
Panel 2.
The BMX Bandit 2.
Well, I'll see what the kid says about going to federal prison with her dear old dad. I know. I'll ask her about it at her 10th birthday anniversary party celebration. I think she might go for it, really. She'd be getting much better. iPad reception on the inside. And the video games are a lot more realistic, too.
Agent Rhymes.
See, some of these newer writers have like this free Nelson Mendoza complex. Or even this free half Nelson Mendoza complex. If they're not fully committed all the way like that. But the last time I went down to the writer's room to check on the meaning of a joke, they had the room all done up like a first century mosque. And they were chanting, "It's all good, it's all good." See, these younger writers just get deeper and deeper every year. And there's some truths that you can love your readers too much.
Panel 3.
Caption. And soon, back inside the Health Spa Fitness Center.
Zirk Ziegler.
Come on, my pretty. Let's go get a beer and talk about craft work. Incidentally, who are technologically the most influential office workers band of all time. At least in my break of the woods. But then, I'm considered a genius in this part of the state, which is kind of like being considered slightly withdrawn in a middle school math class. It just depends on your relationship with the subject, really. But I bet you have great cankles.
Dixie, the second fitness instructor.
I have no idea of what you're talking about, the office space cadet, but I sure like the way that you're talking about it. I get off at 7, and then again at 10, and then again in front of that Uber driver guy the next morning at 8:50 am. But approximately how many stuffed teddy bears are we talking about here first, cutie? I can tell by your approach that you have some real-world insecurity issues that you work out for yourself first.
Page 4.
Zirk Ziegler.
See, I just found an old fountain of youth, toothpaste tube. Commercial video for a 1994 MTV Lost Wallet Communist Bloke Party weekend with the Inhalants. And it was recorded for the next month's sHAZZBOT festival. You've really got to see it in order to be able to forget it. It's just a part of the purge process, really. Well, I'll keep checking back anyway, the second fitness instructor. It's just that I can remember before everything seemed so hopeless. Back when everything was just a little more in focus.
Dixie, the second fitness instructor.
I'll pick you up in my Rollo at $710. I feel so safe around you. I don't see how you could possibly even be an undercover cop, and you're not a half bad actor at all. Either not like in that awful Stanislavski and Hutchinson movie that gave me such terrible nightmares. I might even introduce you to my ex-neighbor-in-law, the mad scientist criminal mastermind who's known only as the Invisible Curtain. Wait, what is happening to me? I'm changing. And my clothes are changing too.
Panel 5.
Caption.
And soon.
Patrolman Bendis.
Great work, boys. Who knew that the invisible curtain would turn out to be the shared secret identity of fitness instructor number 1 and fitness instructor number 2? And all this time, the girls thought that the identity of the invisible curtain was secretly one of their ex-neighbor-in-laws. Those poor girls. They were like the product of a delusional hit sitcom Psycho Fever dream fantasy or something.
Patrolman Dividends. Those poor girls. And then for one of them to pronounce the name the invisible curtain like that. That word being the triggering word that transferred those two girls into that dreaded science villain of the same name. If that name is ever pronounced above a whisper by those poor girls, it might even happen again. With all of that late-night neurolinguistic programming and such not, Kurt Connolly.
So, it was just those two girls who were turning into the invisible curtain all along, due to a shouted word that they weren't even aware of was being used as a triggering device. Those poor girls. But for what possible purpose could the girls have for derailing that cargo train and trying to make off with the special spaceship parts that were used for those rich people's space exploration program? Those poor girls. They must have been working for someone else, as a kind of slave worker employees. But who would do such a thing?
Panel 6.
Kurt Connolly.
There might even be an outside operative, with all the know-how and training to pull off a scheme like that in the first-person place or thing. But those two fitness instructors, they sure gave us a good battle. And I think they got their point across. Well, until next time anyway.
Zirk Ziegler.
But Patrolman Bendis, that might be a double standard you have there, really. Someone who would never think of laughing at a blind man or a crippled man, but wouldn't think twice about pitying two confused criminals if they were random, unrelated females. But that same person wouldn't stop to hesitate in laughing at a stupid person. I hope that you find your someday, Patrolman Bendis. So much for empathy, dude.
Patrolman Bendis.
Hey, you want a piece of me, Zirk Ziegler? I've had it up to here with your guff and bluff. Suppose I just take off this badge and the automatic squirt gun and put away the phony golf cart. and we just go at it. Mano a mano, Tony Orlando. And suppose we have it out right here like true gentlemen. I'll show you where to tie that yellow ribbon around that old strange fruit. See, I personally think that anyone's psyche can snap like a twig at any moment anymore. And I might just be the guy who's out to prove it. Fourth-class citizen, sir. For your information.
Zirk Ziegler.
And I don't want any angry Little League letters from any angry Little League weekend softball Little League parents. Because I just do not care anymore. Now, was it Yogi Berra or Casey Stengel who said that one first? Haha, I am just kidding, ya fourth-class citizen, bonehead.
Kurt Connolly.
Whew. Well, twinklies aren't considered a real food anymore. Patrolman Bendis, now they're just classified as a frankenfood. And they're just loaded with additives and preservatives. It just sounds like you made a real meal out of them tonight first. Though, you were never in any real danger, Patrolman. Whew. St. Guinness's preserve us. Ha 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 ha.
Next episode.
Dr. Ocean and Mr. Ears, Jackal's Soft World, Hyde, Ace Buzzer Frelly, Move Your Killer Crush Car, Airhead.
Copyrights 2024.
With thanks and respect to Mill and Collin. Life on a Plate, Epitaph, 1996, for the episode titled Anagram Mashubius.
Radio SHAZZBOT, Issue 3,
Here come the Theravingis.
Episode 0302.
What went rocket scientist? She's no wrong.
Or
Don't get cuckoo clock. What's in the it?
A 5-page cartoon improv radio script.
by J. Drewster Poindexter.
Episodes titles from the Mr. T Experience. Making Things with Light, 1990.
Scene 1.
The dad just wants to watch the roller derby doubleheader. Theodoric Threravini, the son, has a library book due, and he needs a ride to the ballpark and to the library.
Panel 1.
Caption.
Theodoric.
It was a typical Friday evening dinner time, only we weren't eating dinner. We were just snacking because our maid Hildegard was playing in a roller derby match, and everything else was on the verge of chaos.
Brisbania.
Oh, this is an interesting article. It says that humans can only experience excitement and comprehend change at a rate at which they have already experienced it. HMMM. It goes on to say that no one ever went to federal prison for being a stupid. Or at least for very long. If that was the case, I think that the writer of this article would be serving 6 consecutive life sentences for being stupid. Instead, well, always rely on the unreliable narrator to tell the most interesting story, I guess.
Caption.
Theodoric.
That's my older sister Brisbania, and she's a rock critic for the local New Music Market Gazette. By the way, I'm Theodoric Theravini, and this is my family's sitcom that takes place in 325 AD, just around the time of the fall of the Roman Empire. I'm 12 years old, so I don't really know what my sister does, or what a rock critic is, but my older sister Brisbania is always reading on some doomed news article or another.
Panel 2.
Snowbarella.
Well, this interests me, Brisbania. Only not really. I'm just setting myself up for another one of your misfiring insults, I suppose. It must be horrifying having to be you instead of me, Brisbania dear. Well, you would say something like that anyway. Oh, do you think I'm hearing voices again, Brisbania? But sometimes I think that the voices in my head are meant for someone else instead. And I only start hearing them when I get around you, Brisbania dear. And so what anyway? Like our Representative W. Bush once said, hey, nobody is human. I mean, we're all perfect, aren't we? Well, you know what I mean.
Caption.
Theodoric.
And that's my older brother's girlfriend, Snobbarella, and she's still talking again. She's a hostess at a nearby cornflake restaurant. I think she's beautiful in her own quiet way. Well, at least that's my opinion.
Panel 3.
Adrianople.
This is good pizza. Hey, this is actually from Pizza, Italy, isn't it?
Caption.
Theodoric.
And that's my older brother, Adrianople. He's super cool. So cool he hardly ever talks at all. He's in a band and everything.
I'm a bit of a 12-year-old TV producer type, myself. And I'm thinking of inventing an improv sketch comedy show right here at the end of the Roman Empire in the 325 SAD. Okay, and here's my first idea. You know, my mom's granddad lived to be 93 years old. But did he lift weights and patrol the neighborhood looking for people who he imagined were undesirables? No. He lived to be 93 years old mostly because he kept his mouth shut and minded his own effing business. Haha, I don't have an ending yet. But what do you think?
Panel 4.
Snowbarella.
Oh look, here's a job listings in that same newspaper, Brisbania. For Adrianople to walk at, baby. Here, I'll read it out loud and everything. This is Sam. This is a yam. Sam gives a damn about both Sam and this yam. Does this sort of employment lifestyle choice look interesting to you? Shouldn't you be putting in at least an application in at the local Ministry of Vegetable Gardens Agricultural Registry? A yam is a terrible thing to waste, wouldn't you agree? In your heart, you know it's right. And the same goes for the artichokes.
Hildegard.
Well, Adrianople, maybe you should think about putting in an application at the local Ministry of Vegetable Gardens Agricultural Registry. Baby boy, a yam is a terrible thing to waste, little big man. And the same goes for the artichokes.
Panel 5. Caption.
Theodoric.
And that's Hildegard, our family maid. Don't ask how a typical middle-class family like us got to have a household maid, but my mom is actually away for a while, and so we kind of inherited a household caregiver from the state welfare office. Anyway, I think that Hildegard is cuter than a big's ear magnified under a powerful microscope and multiplied over 100 million times, and she thinks that I'm kind of weird really, but I tell her, if she calls me sick, I guess that means I don't have to go to school again tomorrow. And then she says something like,
Hildegard.
Suppose I take you back to school myself instead first, little man.
Theodoric.
But she doesn't ever drive me to school or anything like that, so I guess she's off the hook.
Panel 6.
The dad.
Hey, what's with the second unit camera crew over here? Tiger beat. Ha ha. Say, and what's that written on your t-shirt? You bad little motor scooter. The number 29. Is that her number, kiddo? It seems that your mom has a little competition. Ha ha. You know, as your dear old dad always says, judge not a man by the contents of his mind, but by the contents of his t-shirt. The number 29. Is that with a capital 2 or with a capital 9? Ha ha, maybe she'd respect you more if you bought the rest of the tank top. Hey, you kids have just been a dynamite audience.
Caption.
Theodoric.
And that's my dad. But we just call him the dad, really. I've heard of a dad being just a woke Disney's frozen-headed dad stuck in a Marvel's Disney Comics cinemascopic multi-universe before. But sometimes the dad is just the dad, and not the kind of big doofus authority figure fool that sicko Mike Peters used to cast as the dad on Nickel Blue Onion's dystopian Disney afternoon reprogramming schedule. But that's my dad instead. Really, just the dad.
Scene 2.
The roller derby doubleheader, the Uber paramedics make an appearance, and they have the wrong house. One of the paramedics is passing around a petition to ban the roller derby due to the excessive sex and violence clothing apparel used in the game's play.
Panel 1.
The dad.
Well, believe it or not, I have no say in the hiring process whatsoever. Kids, I just want to sit in front of the TV iPad tonight and watch the roller derby doubleheader, and in Disturbed too. Kids, honestly, that's the whole premise of this episode. It's like a Kabbalah Harrison panel TV game show. That's my actual perceptual conceptual continuity. Well, everybody's life is equal when they're just sitting on the sofa waiting for something bigger to come along.
Brisbania.
It's just an ecstasy of boredom with you folks here tonight, isn't it? But I guess that's why people go on tour with bands when they're young, to get it out of their systems at an early age. Why not sports? What did you think otherwise normal people were going to obsess about forever? Food or money? You can't buy this kind of therapy. You have to get it almost for free on the iPad app.
Panel 2.
Brisbania.
Well, VSP can do for you what an entire season of roller derby doubleheaders can do for you therapy-wise. And in a fractal of the time, too. But see, then you have to build yourself back up and recreate you in your own image. It sounds complicated though, doesn't it? Well, back to the chemistry set. I've got some genetics gnome work to put the final finishing cliches on.
The dad.
Say, isn't that the doorbell ringing again? Well, I'll just take it off the hook. I can't be any further disturbed than I am right now.
Brisbania.
Yay, and let's not get into the fact that this part of the failing Roman Empire in 325 AD is just basically the barbarian Riviera by now. It's probably just another mysterious, disembodied, disappearing, clandestine Karen voice at the door, going door to door, collecting for some disembodied grassroots astroturfing crypto pseudo-farcical religious crisis or another. So I'll answer the door instead. Daddykins, yay, and with those funny accents. Maybe they'll bend it like Frederick Wortham in his instruction booklet, An Insurrection of the Innocents. 2.
Panel 3.
Caption.
Doorbell. Bing bong. Brisbania.
Oh, hi fellas. I'm sorry that the middle-class industrial power structure complex let you down to such a profound degree that they shorted all of you alls out on both the education and the healthcare opportunities. And now you're just grasping at straw to pace because you're too stupid to know any better. It's not you guys' fault really. I don't blame you for being confused. Blame the virus. Forgive the zombie. Am I right? Or am I right? Or what? These are the riffs, folks.
Hildegard, the court-appointed maid.
Hello, darling dollface. You sound like you're getting ready for your audition for a reel on the Hammer and Sickle Minute show on the Combative Broadcasting Network, sweetie. It's just your dear maid, Auntie Hildegard. Who did you think it was? Drop the mic, Chris Walrus at your front door.
Panel 4.
Brisbania. Oh, hi Hildegard the maid. You don't have to ring the bell. I didn't know it was you instead. But what are you doing here at this hour? I thought you'd be downtown getting ready to play it forward in the roller derby doubleheader at G Science Fiction Stadium.
Hildegard the maid.
Ketchup is too a vegetable, dearie. Ha ha. Yep, I just stopped back in at the apartment because I forgot my lucky elbow pads. I had been doing some extreme vegetable gardening with them in the backyard, sugar bugger. And I guess I just lost all tract and time. Or is that I just lost all tact and rhyme?
Panel 5.
The dad.
From the iPad TV room.
Okay, Hildegard the maid. Here's a real quick peep start before the game. You know, your old dad did go to the University of College online one time. I was an online college athlete too, and I once had a business coach who said to me, the dad, you don't have to be interesting all the time if you can believe it. And I just thought for a business coach to have to say that to me. Sheesh, you know, isn't that some kind of an inactionable offense? But I'm so glad that you could ploop back in before the game though, Hildegard. We should do this sort of thing more often. And anyway, I think Brisbania is right. I mean, no one wanted Sid Vicious and the Sex Pancreases to be the president of the free world more than I did when I was 12 years old. Brisbania, I was a kid once, and you can judge me all you want for that.
Panel 6.
Hildegard, the course-appointed maid.
Well, that and 5 Mallard points or 10 Canard ducats would get you a flask of coffee at 12 ducks these days. Really, the dad. Talk is the only thing that's cheap around here anymore, sweet leaf. But I think those ducks would tell a different story if they could speak for themselves. Really, I'm sorry. Did you say something other than else? The dad, baby.
Caption.
Theodoric.
Back then, Hildegard thought she had to talk to my dad like she was a Dr. Timothy Dennis Leary or even a Kabbalah Harrison to get her point across to him. But Brisbania was right about one thing, being right. There really were roving bands of door-to-door street solicitors roaming the neighborhoods and collecting for unusual causes back then and in the nearby neighborhood towns too, like in Babylon and On, the gateway to the odds, and in Pandemonium, a town whose name literally had pan meaning view and demonium meaning delirium in its definition. What my dad was still confused that guy with the worms in his brain was still polling at a distant third in the Roman Senate Emperor elections. Really?
Scene 3.
Brisbania is in trouble with the internet. Her review for Neon Musical Gazette magazine wasn't completely edited to exclude certain crossword puzzle answers. And her review for Don't Try That in a Big City Either, Jason Aldean. It turns out that crime statistics are proportionally the same in small towns as they are in the big cities. Has the same title as someone else's article in the Baltimore Musical Gazette titled The Last Small Town on the Left, Ambidextrous Politics, Threat or Menace. And her review for the movie Motel Hello, the prequel, had been replaced with a copy of her earlier review for Robin Leach, Mensch in Tights. So it's no wonder that these days, more Americans are getting their movie reviews from angry 50-plus-year-old white guys, shouting into their cell phones while sitting in parked cars, with their wives not having the time to watch out for them than from any other source. But spell checkers were so unforgiving back in 325 AD.
Panel 1.
Caption.
Theodoric in voiceover.
My dad was waiting for the roller derby to come on the idiot toaster, and you could have fried a green eggs and irradiated him on the eagerly awaited anticipation.
Caption. iPad TV commercial.
Joe Dage.
Fellow Neon Musical Gazette readers, poll voters, it's Joe Dage here again. You know, as your kind of local hometown politician, I know that in the past I have had some relatability issues. The internet people say I have trouble relating to people who are in the same voting district that I'm in. And I know that in the past I have had likability issues. I have trouble liking people who aren't in the same voting district that I'm in.
Background voice.
Here, you can just put that scaffolding anywhere, Dave.
Joe Dage.
And there are even some internet charges that I've even had accessibility issues to. Maybe in the past I've had trouble being accessible to people who aren't in the same political seat that I've been sitting in here in the Baltimore tri-state area for the past 5 election cyclones. But I guess that's just what keeps me in office. I'm an old-fashioned ordinary work, a dream politician myself. Voters, and anyway, all of those internet charges against me are really all in the press now anyway. Just remember, the past is a good place to be from, but you wouldn't want to live there.
Background voice.
Ice Station Zebra 3. Ice Station Zebra 3. See the man.
Panel 2.
Joe Dage.
Anyways, I've been taking some late night classes recently at your local Ed's no-fault computer-assisted bowling league community career counselling clinics. Hey, it's affordable. Government grants and student loans are available to those who are willing to wait for them. It's accessible. There's probably one being built right across the street from you right now at the site of that old secret government records warehouse.
Background voice.
Hey Mac. I was supposed to go to lunch 6 hours ago. Isn't this supposed to be a union gig or something?
Joe Dage.
And it's attentive to the needs of the typical Ed's no-fault computer-assisted bowling league community career counselling clinic student, with available classes in asking if that's a new paint job on that car or boat recognition. Get your that cute new female deli retail cashier hovering stentorian certification, or trend to be a new wave shark whisperer, or become a professional catwalker with your own romantic potent training paperwork subclassification.
Background voice.
1 Adams Rib 12. 214 Mr. Roberts. Ice Station Zebra 3. Ice Station Zebra 3. Do you read much?
Joe Dage.
Hey, use a Gripon and get your own 12-year Homeland Security Clearance authorization, or maybe try out for a hot mic open mic night guitar player Juris Doctorate. You might even qualify as a public swimming pool, security guard, flight attendant trainee in training, local voters. As a neighbourhood politician, I only had to make a few quick local nestles, quick-fueled local phone calls to make an appointment to come on down and read for the part of a first-time student with one of their fancy, not snooty at all, Ed's no-fault computer-assisted bowling league community clinic career counsellors. It's no longer lines around the block and no hassles from the man anymore for me, man. I mean local voters. So take it from Joe Dage. If you're going to take it from anybody at all, at Ed's no-fault computer-assisted bowling league community clinic career counselling centres, it's just that simple, really, Boss Hoss.
Background voice.
Yeah. Oh, you can just put that outward rigging down anywhere. Steve.
Panel 3.
Barnaby the Dinosaur NBA fan.
Sheesh. When is this roller derby doubleheader supposed to start up again? It's like waiting for the hot girls to get out of one of those Amazon delivery trucks. I feel like I'm just waiting for Gail Godot over here.
The dad.
Well, maybe I'm just being a woke Disney's frozen-headed dad in a Marvel's Comics cinemascopic multi-universe again here. Really, Barnaby the Dinosaur NBA fan. But I can remember a brief history of time not too elongated ago, when, if you knew just a little bit about politics, you thought that the politicians were insane. But you were maybe intrigued by the marketing and the merchandising, and by the extent of the politicians' madness. Anyway, but if you knew a little bit more about politics, then you'd be terrified of gazing too closely into the abyss. Yes, I remember that time well. And it was like, if you didn't have anything nice to say about somebody, then come over here and sit next to me instead, Boss Hoss. But I wasn't like that with everybody just yet.
Panel 4.
The dad.
I'm fine just where I am, old friend. Hey hon, what do you think about this the oven mitts versus the catcher's mitts matchup, Brisbania? You write those articles for your local small-time, small-town music press. The Neon Musical Gazette. Tell my drinking body here, Barnaby the Dinosaur NBA fan. Do you think that today's modern now a go-go housewife's liberation front just sort of sat on the bench in the cheap seats in the Baltimore sports media during the last decade and a half? Now, don't feel like you have to show off for my house guest, Barnaby the Dinosaur NBA fan here, baby doll. Just speak your true thing instead.
Brisbania.
I'm sorry, the dad. Did you just say anything at all? I was in the kitchen, making a vegan burger sandwich with what's left of the plant-based meat substitute. You know, while it's still not a crime here in Baltimore in 325 AD, at what price freedom fries? Am I right? Or am I right, Mr. Barnaby the Dinosaur NBA fan? Well, my mom's told me to be an alchemist in the kitchen and an acrobat in the laundry room, which I thought was some pretty neat advice. Really, she's kind of away for a while now. Would you like some fish food while you wait around today? Mr. Barnaby the Dinosaur NBA fan.
Panel 5.
Barnaby, the Dinosaur NBA fan.
Well, I still have some fashion chips in my head that I'd like to finish from that South Korean grocery supermarket excavation. Really, my dear. But that's awfully sweet of you. Now don't try to pull one over on me. Brisbania. I know you kids today, with your white Howards in fiddle doggerel-eared paperbacks, and your Ralph Nerf Herder commemorative radio station low-fee artistic licenses, that you honestly think that NPR and the NRA Special Victims Unit are exactly same thing, and just a freakazoid of the peoples. As Harpo Marx used to said, you don't have to Molly the Riveter. You know milkmaid yogurt curdle it with me. Cutie pie. I have face tattoos. Can't you even see that?
Brisbania. Now don't be absurd, Mr. Barnaby. Let's just leave that to the experts. Say the dad. Doesn't this the Oven Mitts versus the Catchers Mitts roller derby doubleheader matchup start up again soon? I still have some newsprint copy to have miscalculated for this latest issue.
Barnaby, the dinosaur NBA fan.
Well, I know that you kids don't like to discuss religion or politics in mixed up company. Brisbania. So we'll just call it a drew, little starling, won't we? I'm just on how many spills so far tonight now. I'm starting to double dribble, so I'm not even wrong really. Just a little chemically confused and clinically misunderstood. Can you ever make up enough excuses for your Uncle Barnaby again? My dearest friend's sweetest little sugar booger daughter.
Panel 6.
The dad.
You know how in our fake book folklore, they tell us that you can't buy your friends any more than you can buy dances at the local Baltimore high school dance really, Brisbania. Well, I wouldn't trade $1 zillion in gambling debts for a true friend like Barnaby the dinosaur NBA fan. Honey bunny, that's for sure. But it turns out that they were just saying that in our fake book folklore and social media mythologizing after all. Just for social status self-promotion purposes, really.
Brisbania. You know how on the Star Treks they always tell William Shattered, Jim, don't show them the ship, Captain Jerk. You'll violate the primetime syndication ratings directions. Though maybe their unfamiliar ratings demographics maybe can't handle the sudden future shirk of the new. Well, I think that you're always going to show them that ship instead, every time. The dad. It's kind of like your Dardai's dad humor credo. As far as I'm concerned, sings, Shardubi Shatnerd, Shatnerd, the dad.
People sometimes say that they don't have enough money for beer, when they do have enough money for comic books though. But see, beer is a social adhesive that keeps people together and keeps them from asking too many questions, while comic books actually contain more of an karmic cleansing quality, and they do get people asking too many questions, don't they? Barnaby the dinosaur NBA fan.
Brisbania.
You can't buy this kind of therapy, so you have to get it for free. The dad.
Scene 4.
Adrianople and his girl Snobberella are having relationship problems again. He keeps cheating on her on social media, and he is unclear on the concept of having a girlfriend. Meanwhile, a quasi-religious, vigilante group is going door to door to get people to sign a petition to ban the roller derby doubleheaders.
Panel 1. Panel 2. Panel 3.
Meanwhile, in the kitchen of the Theravini apartment house, standing over a shared bowl of Corporal Bailey's peanut buttered crumples, a box which was evidently damaged somehow during the pre-production process, incidentally, but let's not quibble about that here, at that same time.
Adrianople.
Look at what she texted me. I don't know where I find these candy stripers anymore. Really, it's right here on her top tick clickbait account. Well, she told me that she'd had all of her promo shots brought up to date. Anyways, to whom it may concern, dear sirs, sheesh, I can't even read this. She used to be that kind of a girl who made casting low-functioning asparagus at a person look like a Las Vegas Super Bowl halftime show after party. All streamers and well-meaning idiots. But now that she's been going to the local Civic Forum Community College Middle School, now it's all this, and she's all changed. Changed utterly changed.
Snowbarella.
Are you still talking about that girl you met on the City Transit Chariots 2 months ago? Adrianople, I swear, sometimes you act like we're not even dating, and that we're not coming up on our 3-year anniversary at all anymore. I feel like a fly splattered on the wall in our own relationship sometimes. This multiple wandering eye stuff can't be happening to us now. I have biz, you stupid imbecile. You're going to do this to me. And just when I was so close to qualifying for some actual relatability issues of my own.
Panel 4.
Adrianople.
And look here, these are like her tongue twisters, and they're all written down just for me, and of course for all of her other presumably legions of fans too. I'll suppose. Here, read these back to me. I'm having trouble understanding the subtext going on here. Doll space.
Snowbarella.
Let me see that. Baby fingers. LL well, there's a picture of what looks like a giant molluskin hospital pajamas. And it says a woman can have better kids under socialism. They have better healthcare in Switzerland. And underneath it on the next one, there's a picture of what looks like someone who's had harassed hound dressed up like the Cardinal Rupolo or something. And this one says, Good gracious. Now that I've gotten back under Granny's good graces, maybe she'll give me the recipe for that tumor-free tuna salad recipe. Salt of the earth, she is.
Adrianople. Hey babe, what does this one say here?
Snowbarella.
Well then there's this next grift photo PDF jipe on her top tick clickbait account, and it says, well, it's a picture of Amanda Hug and Kiss, the popular singer for the massive group the Pro Toolbox Murderers. She's kind of this pin-up theater token type for these record and tape collector people types or something. If Memorex serves. And the comment says, oh, you're not gonna like this. Adrianople honey humblebee. It says, quit pretending that art is hard, Amanda Hug and Kiss. And you just let me see that ukulele. And this last one, I think you should read back to me. Adrianople sweetie pancreas. You know how well you've been doing in those vigilante reading lessons that I've been giving you lately. Panel 5.
Adrianople.
Wait, did you hear that buzzer just now? Is that just you being a smashed fly on the wall in our relationship again? But wait, look out that curtain. Who's that at the front door? Well, we can't just leave it for one of the other kids to get. Now, can we?
Snowbarella, but Adrianople baby. Oh well, maybe I'll never know why you even have me read all of those love letters that you get from all the other girls on their social media postings. Deary headlights. It's like trying to apply common sense and conventional wisdom to the re-election of President Caligula. It just doesn't make any economic sense anymore. Baby clothes. How is he going to be Emperor Ploop Ploop's useful idiot if he can't even travel over state territories anymore? It simply can't be explained. Not anyway, not anyhow, or not anywhere. Sweetie Yams.
Adrianople.
Gee, that's not a bad cry for help there. Snowbarella. It just needs a little work. Like maybe at a local non-profit's food co-op or something. Well, I gotta go answer the door. I think Brisbania is expecting some local right-wing Episcopalian infiltrators who are protesting the local people watching the roller derby doubleheader in the privacy of their own residences. And you know how these conflagrations have a way of going public. I just want to record it on my new Daro Go type cell phone. Really.
Panel 6.
Snowbarella.
Well, don't let me stand in your way, Adrianople, honey grams and kilos. But you know, I had a moment of clarity just last month. The intervals seem to be getting closer and closer these days. But you're just not very bright. Are you, Adrianople? But I guess that you're better off really.
Adrianople.
What do you mean by that? Snowbarella. Shorty sweet thing.
Snowbarella.
It's just Adrianople. I just realized, with all of your social media carbon dating expeditions, I guess us fools rust in where the smart girls failed to trend, but you always seem to get to the after party first and then leave the after party after everybody else has already left. It's just like on the homecoming committee. Really, pistachio walnuts I say, and handlebar mustaches too I say. I'm not going to be your long-lost 18th century BC sea captain ancestor steampunk uncle forever. Adrianople baby, say when is this cute little teen romance movie stuff supposed to wear off anyway? Baby honey sweat figs. And besides, don't you have to enter the front door or something?
Adrianople.
When is our cute little teen romance movie supposed to wear off? You mean? Well, I think that the condition of our cute little teen romance stuff has gone from objectively bad to subjectively worse. Really? But I just couldn't say exactly when this stuff is supposed to wear off. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not some kind of a rocket surgeon dentist's apprentice or something. Sweetie trousers.
Snowbarella.
Hey quick, check out the view from this upstairs window. Adrianople baby. There are some of those local Pampers pamphleteers at the front door downstairs. Well, nobody wanted Snide Vicious and the Sex Pancreases to be the president more than I did when I was 12 years old. Adrianople sweetie, and they might even have a spiteful little Rottenweiler of their own for misinformation purposes nowadays. But that right-wing Episcopalian party poopers party is still very much in the interests of the rich. You know, behind that irony curtain. Adrianople.
Do you know what it's like to live in a package store prison colony? Well, my granddad sure did, but at least they put that fun back into basic fundamentalism. I suppose. I guess one day soon we'll all be postman like my granddad was. After all the dust and postal courtesy has cleared, I'll run and get my camcorder from out of the garage. I don't want to miss this. The alcohol they drink doesn't have a proof, but at least it does have some kind of a circumstantial evidence.
Scene 5.
The roller derby doubleheader, the gang all watches it. And as they're announcing birthdays, it is the maid's birthday and she's playing in the game. Hey kids, I'm on the iPad TV, PSST. Don't ban the roller derby doubleheaders.
Panel 1.
Caption.
Meanwhile, back in front of the iPad TV idiot toaster, present-day Baltimore 32580.
Snowbarella.
Hi the dad. Hi Bonnaby the dinosaur NBA fan. I answered the front door. It's kind of fun to live in a world where the walls could all come closing in at any time now. But it wasn't the Episcopalian extremists at the door instead. It was just the neighbors dresses as religious fundamentalists to commemorate one of their pagan holidays. Trick or treat, they said, or something. It was spooky. Those costumes were amazing though, so authentic. Upside down Baltimore flag bathing suits and husband beaters with the sleeves cut off, and that Caligula behind bars. How's he's gonna be Nero, my hero's useful idiot, if he can't even leave the country due to the terms of his cruel irony on decals? Ha. It was neato.
Adrianople.
And then the other neighbor who was dressed for their trick-or-treat religious observation was wearing the same upside-down Baltimore flag pajama bottoms type get-up. I was so glad that she thought enough dress up for the occasion. And she had a shirt that said, if he's a phony, then I'm a phony too, which is of course impossible due to the infallibility of the word of our Lord. Ha. That shirt was thrifty.
Brisbania.
Yikes, I'm sorry I missed that doorbell myself, dudes. And well, I might prefer to see a Kabbalah Harrison versus a Carrie Lakes of Fire Virgin in the debates. You know the Gypsy, the Acid Queen versus a PM magazine for zombies type. And they're kind of like that aliens versus predators argument, when you think about it. But I guess that we'll have to settle for that same old Freddy Krueger versus Jason Voorhees movie again. Though, with the voters having to sit through Saw vs. Scream reruns all over again. But hey, it sells tickets and puts the Beetlejuicers and buttheads in the seats at the Theater of the Absurd for another 4 years though, doesn't it? You know what though, wasn't that Freddy Krueger character already the Emperor for 2 terms so far already? I mean, when you write that down, that hardly even sounds like Vanity Fair artifact stuff to me. Does it to you? Well, like the song says, who needs money when you're funny? That it wasn't that a song by the early Boston band on some bizarre level or something. But I mean, what are these local politicians thinking about on the interwebs anymore these days? Anyways, kids, I don't think that they're worried about the continuity issues anymore. Don't forget to vote early and often. Fright fans.
Panel 2?
The dad.
Hey, now hold on just a minute, Brisbania. I thought that UT majors were all about keeping big government out of the lives of private citizens and all that, you know, like you kids are keeping out of the lives of private citizens yourselves. Or I should hope, ha. Say, Adrianople, if you're not that interested in this roller derby doubleheader, can you drive your little brother down to the local communicable college? He has one of his middle school AP band book club meetings down there again. And say, there's an illegal upstate puppy mill that's having its grand opening on the way back here. You kids can drop in for a popsicle if you want to, you know, if it's not too dark by then.
Bonnaby, the dinosaur NBA fan.
Yeah, and what the heck difference does it make anyway? Kids, the oven mitts are going to lose to the catcher's mitts in this match. I think that much is obvious anyway. We're all doomed. It's just that some of us are more doomed than others. Ha. You know, this Red Bull and adrenocorticrome stuff really is chicken soup for the recovering sarcastic addict's soul. Ha. Bone spurs and stripes forever. I guess it is a little orgiastic though. But what isn't these days?
Brisbania.
Hey look, the organ player is playing in halftime already. I guess it's time to give us a break in 3/4 time now too. Barnaby, the dinosaur NBA fan. And to be honest with you, I get the feeling that our political troubles are just beginning. Popsicles along the way too, huh, Dad? Well, you can count me in as well, Adrianople.
Panel 3?
Theodoric.
Hey wait, watch this on the TV iPad. I'd heard that they'd introduced a new segment on the roller derby doubleheaders, effective immediately. They let each individual player give a speech if they have one prepared. Well, this is new. I guess the oven mitts team and the catcher's mitts team have come home to roost. Or so it seems. Watch that referee. Watch his job. I guess someone finally found the energy to commit social suicide after all.
Snowbarella.
Oh, I've read about this. I think that it's really positive for the game. It gives anyone a chance. You know, oh look, here comes Hildegard, the court-appointed maid. What joy, what fun. I guess this is her season in the sun.
Brisbania.
Well, personally, I think this is like the night Chicago died. In my opinion, admiring someone for their artistic accomplishments is one thing. But if you're just some obscure kicker on an obscure championship team coming to gripes about your mom being a physics professor and you yourself are just wanting to turn back the hands of time, it's a free country, you know. But I don't want to have to hear about it, you know, unless there's electronic music and artificially intelligent cartoons in the background or something. It might increase the viewer involvement. But have a little dignity there, Mr. Referee. I mean, you can turn back the hands of time. But do you believe in love serving love? You know, das HHHH. Here comes Hildegard, the court-appointed maid.
Panel 4.
Hildegard the maid.
Speaking live on the idiot toaster.
Okay, I don't want to stop the game. Game stop. Gameplay. Here for more than a minute just yet. Fans and TV iPad viewers alike. But there has been some recent talk recently. And some people going door to door with pamphlets and petitions and the having of politicians placed in their back pockets, talking about banning or severely restricting the use of roller derby double headers for use by the general public. And I'd just like to talk right down to everybody for a moment in a language that everybody here can easily understand. I'm a court-appointed housemaid. I'm not anybody special really. I mean big deal. I can play the roller derby double header as a basically successful forward point guard. I didn't choose this job. Well, it's not a typical job. It's just an elevated hobby and maybe a chosen obsession to me, really. And that job might just have just been chosen by me, really. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the halftime results.
Panel 5.
Caption.
Meanwhile, while still watching on the iPad TV at the Theravingi's apartment house.
Barnaby, the dinosaur NBA fan.
Now wait just a minute. Whew, I'll tell you what. I think it's about time that somebody spoke up for the average roller derby forward point guard's individual voice. And you can't get much more average than her. Here, I have a prepared statement that I'd like to make. Winner roller skater dinner. Eat, sleep, roll, repeat.
The dad.
You know what though? She makes a valid point there. Really, I mean roller derby enthusiasts like you and me are real people too. Barnaby, the dinosaur NBA fan. And so are other people just like you and me too. And real people should be allowed to live their lives without the threat of local persecution or the fear of unnecessary regional legislation. I mean, this is still Baltimore, 325 AD, isn't it? And we should be allowed to live out our lives and learn from our past lives as well.
Barnaby, the dinosaur NBA fan.
Talk derby to me. Skater's gonna skate. Hater's gonna hate. She didn't fail. It was a strategic move, blocking out the haters, one jam out at a time.
Panel 6.
Theodoric, in voiceover.
Dad always spoke the common sense. It was the coin of the realm back in 325 AD Rome, I suppose. Like they used to tell us in my AP home economics class. The commonwealth dictates to us, while the common wisdom merely goes on to inform us of that fact. Or else, as common wit will subdue us, the common knowledge will remind us that it does. I guess the common epithet and epitaph is not so common after all. One of those two, anyways. It seems to me that Harpo Marx might have said that once too, though, you know, at that Albuquerque round table that the AP home economics classes used to go round and round about. But these are but common pleasantries, surely, and the explanation is going nowhere again. Well, Harpo Marx always was a bit of the fop of the walk, anyways. I had to go to a band ER college book club meeting that day at the local communicable college. We were reading the photo novelization of Motel Hello, the prequel before the lights went out. But I guess that's a different story. It was only kids-only band U college book club meeting that day, but whole entire decades have a way of passing in 1 week sometimes, and the traffic was impossible. So needless to say, I didn't end up catching the end of the roller derby doubleheader. But supposedly Hildegard, our court-appointed maid and the Ovenmitz roller derby team's forward point guard, gave another speech a little later that same day, and that it was even better than the first. Well, that was back in the 325 AD Rome era, back at our small-town Baltimore trading outpost. But I guess you had to be there, really. Well, let's go ahead and consign this ghosted simpering jive to the Kindle graveyard and get started on the next one right away instead. You know, I had some AP reverse psychology classes when I was in middle school too, but you wouldn't want to hear about all of that, would you? I've been called problematic, yet cathartic, by the neighbors. But I guess that's a story for a different time as well.
Next episode.
Big Zero Latin, no parasite outbreaking.
Or
So long, Hogburrow, a sucker in weekend.
Or bonus.
The psycho who still lives at home, sent. Girl me a postcard.
Copyrights 2024.
Thanks and respect to the Mr. D experience. Making things with light look out. Records, 1990. For the episode title anagram mashups.
Awoke Disney's frozen-headed dad in a Marbles Comics cinemascopic multi-universe production. Awoke Disney's frozen-headed dad in a Marbles Comics cinemascopic multi-universe production. Radio SHAZZBOT, issue 03.
September 2024.
Beta Maximum Overdrive, episode 0305. Humors and innuendos. The Nouveau Retro site Geisterata. And letters to the editors.
By J. Drewster Poindexter.
The opinions expressed in these pages do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the crew chiefs and shift managers of Invisible Inc. publications, and they are intended primarily for satirical purposes only. Plus the fact that, also. Anyway, any resemblance to any public or private figure is purely coincidental. Please note, some of this was written before more recent developments. Reader discretion is advised. Gilbert and Sullivan are the names of the gentlemen who signed the paychecks at my house. Radish ears.
Florida. Man.
American nightmares walking down the streets in broad daylight, all over again.
I just think you're all in for a rude awakening when all of those fake Christians try to take away all your fake American beer and bring you back to the Prohibition era. And then they try to put your kids into their phony Bible camps. I mean, as a straight-edge skinhead and a cheap looking to pay. I might actually take to it right to it at first, but you won't. Suckers? Don't we love our suckers? Don't we just love our suckers, folks? Now, what was I talking about again? DJ Trump, babbling away at a J6 hostage's self-promotion benefit concert.
I never did you a better service than to stop you from doing these terrible things. 2 warped wooden stools standing in for the courtroom defendants. And a bit later. But at this gate that let thy folly in, and revealed thou's direst judgment let out. King Lear, Shakespeare.
What's wrong with him? Oh, think nothing of it. They're putting him into a writer's reprogramming camp, upstate. They say he was pornographic.
Yeah, don't you worry about that dude. When he gets out, he'll be writing children's cautionary tales books about elephants and butts, and with no memories of our cold, dark past to speak of whatsoever.
The Washington Machine.
The ruling class is a bit subjective though, isn't it? I mean, they won't rule me. That's for sure. I'm uncorruptible.
Just a few J.D. Vance jokes to help you. The time with, in a riposte of sorts. J.D. Vance came up so contrary to his raison that the cars up on blocks outside his farmhouse are all Cadillacs and Lincoln Continentals. J.D. Vance ignores his Meemaw's better angels and roots for Mr. Drysdale on the Beverly Hillbillies. J.D. Vance thinks that NASCAR is rigged, but that TV wrestling, in fact, always favors the little guy.
Florida. Man.
Any clown can entertain other people. The trick is to keep yourself entertained. That is the sport of kings, P.T. Bonham overheard at a recent dictator nomination.
Well, it's really just up to the veto power of the single individual voter, isn't it? Like that 5-4 decision on the Supreme Court after the 2000 presidential elections. And maybe the so-called ex-mass Christians won't have to worry about voting anymore.
Oh, Forest Chops. Our false messiah, our fearless bone spur leader. The bone spurs and stripes forever guy. Putin's useful idiot. The Trojan horse of the Hermitage Foundation. I want his job. Lead us not into translation. Holy snipes. Well, I hate to interrupt the child when he's praying, don't you know?
You know what that sounds like to me, Mr. Senator from Florida. It sounds like, wow, that guy really needs to stay off the Botox and save up to afford another vasectomy. Instead.
Oh, you're a REM fan? Well, the Space Force is still the best place to be a REM fan. And do you like balloon animals too?
Well, opinions are like a hose. Everybody knows one.
Vermont is the verb where we come from. It's more of a state of mind, really. We just like sort of Vermont. It's man versus himself up there. It's like Kramer versus Kramer.
The Washington Machine.
Dad? Gotta go, kiddo. Fox News is having the Hillary trial in about 10 minutes, and gosh, oh, am I thirsty.
That 1860s Civil War rebel Confederate hero image is very seductive for certain types of broken, sleepwalking, beer as an amphetamine type of sort, who might currently be stuck in a downward shame spiral cultural loop bad movie to begin with. Look, there goes one. Let's go talk to one now.
Well, I might not know how to finish painting a house, you smart aleck high school graduates, but I do know how enough to remake an educational system, and how to revoke a healthcare system, and how to declare anyone's but my own pornography as being against my own community standards. And so, for the sake of a very obviously godless wanker stupid effing git's distorted mirror self-image, I call upon thee, oh so-called host of hosts, to smote and rebuke your local infidels. If you're still looking for Skeeter Jr., the third's worthless 2 cents that is, right there it is, fellow Fright fans.
Mr. Gossip's column.
Item.
Nikki Haley once said that the USA has never been a racist country, and she never heard of the Jeffersonian Compromise, the 31st Constitutional Compromise, the so-called 3/5 of a person compromise of lousy references, and she gave all of her electoral delegates to a man she called a walking toxicity. We think that she could always teach AP history classes at the high school level in the florid dust under the current governor Ron DeSantis' current guidelines, if she ever needs a new day gig or something. What a boneheaded guffaw. There. Soaring feather rhetoric is.
I'm Mr. Gossips. I know it. You know it. And now I know you know it, because it's true.
I feel like shopping at Publix, where shopping is a left-wing paradox these days, is almost like using my hard-fought paychecks to pay for right-wing Publix heiress Stephanie Ziegler's brain therapy sessions. I mean her far-flung flight of fancy, funding of certain so-called religious organizations for certain so-called counter-religious activities. Even though she as yet herself refuses to show up for their brain therapy sessions. While the company that her great-grandparents built for her in the Southeast seems to have originally been started and organizationally structured for the benefit of its Publix employees. Stephanie Ziegler herself is very much in the pockets of the Hermitage Foundation's Project 2024 movement. I keep thinking, don't worry man, she'll eventually get hers in some sort of divine retribution, like Baker and Falwell and Oral Roberts before her. These days it's basically, will that be paper or plastic, ma'am? Oh, I thought you meant paper or plastic. Which type of crookily invested currency will you be paying for my anti-democracy yachts with, kiddo?
I'm Mr. Gossips. I know it. You know it. And now I know you know it, because it's true. I don't care what you say about the Hall of Robot Presidents, and how Robot President Mike Pence might eventually stack up against all the other robot presidents. Or about Mr. Eisnerberg's wild ride over in shaded economics land, or the mustachioed men in the Cow Chemical Corporations, if you only had a conscience, attraction, or the Botchin GT Corporations, now is the best time of our minds, exhibition over in utter bloody fabrication land, and I don't care what you think of the big Space Mountain Railroad investment lines, or about Peter Payne's Frightmares, or Uncle Gumpo's blighted teacups over in Final Fantasy Finale land, or even what you say about all of those ale-free water drafts that they used to give out for free at Sniffles Country USA, way back in the head cold days of the 1870s. But if you have one negative thing to say about the cheese factory Robinson's Cheese House, then you are not my animated cartoon pal right now, Feeble Convivial. And I mean it.
I'm Mr. Gossips. I know it. You know it. And now I know you know it, because it's true. Seriously, they just didn't know any better back then. And it's quite a comic's leap of faith from the way back then to the so-called presentism concepts that you would have us believe in today. And that might just grow to be incredibly dated and fossilized again someday, and by the looks of it, maybe even again next week, by the way that thing's cooking up, by the way. Vote Kamala, Kamala Mania. Brand new Kamala Camelot. Or don't vote at all. You can't complain if you don't vote. You won't be allowed to anymore. Etc. It's just such a cliche to hear you kiddies say that things weren't at least a little more goofily hopeful, and maybe a little more innocently naive and coherent and cute back in the days. Before the real housewives of the Moscow Moose Club were setting the table for the pauper's banquet that they're trying to make be the only option available to us nowadays, youngsters, and kids of all ages. And we did not come this far in such a short epochal geological period of time, just to be stopped and turned back on the path to all of our enlightenment, teenagers. My grandfather's brother was not in the first 10 minutes of Saving Private Ryan to live to see this happen. And anyway, maybe your culture wouldn't be such a hoot without the previous 60 or 73 generations of coolio hipsters to start it off on the right road to begin with. Okay, Jetta. You can't handle the truth about the house the mouse built without us. Zippity zoozah. Zippity zah, indeed.
I'm Mr. Gossips. I know it. You know it. And now I know you know it, because it's true.
Psychology Tuesdays. All you care to eat.
It's like H.G. Wells' Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The album version, Adolescence, was only ever supposed to be treated as a minor neurosis. Really, Sigmund Freud, sweet dreams are made of this.
Have you ever read Little, Robert Baron Gump's kiddie tell-all book? I mean, I think somebody ought to check that kid's forehead for an area code, and perhaps a return address. But that's a thanks for the heads up story for a different time. Possibly. Well, he's no Sacha Baron Cohen. But sheesh. It seems like basically anyone who's ever worked for this, Meet the Clumps, dude, any capacity whatsoever has written, tell one of these negative review tell all books of one kind or another.
Even little Robert Baron Gump, whose book most likely has the little bears with the umbrellas foreclosing on the American dream in it. And who probably got paid off not to write such a book in the early years. Just wait until after the Moonshine State's coast is toast. Or even the Yard people who last term took a scorched earth policy to the Rose Garden, burning its centuries-old treasures to the ground. Lead by the treachery of the wicked Malarkey, who's still here illegally on a genius immigrant grant,
paid to do a special job in the US that no one else seems qualified to do. Read on. Using her evil former Soviet Union gardening techniques under Chernobyl's wrathful shadow to permanently warp even Jackie O's favorite hiding place.
But that presidential library that everybody always gets when they retire from the presidential office probably won't contain any of these hundreds and hundreds of tell-all books about tell-all books. Upon further reflection, Trump's presidential library will all just be hotel cocktail napkins with their names of hookers written on them in unofficial red state hooker red lipstick. And why do you think he goes on all those speaking tours into all those faraway towns with all that campaign money for him in the first place? To contribute tax-deductible local infrastructure bill donations or something. I guess he's not much of a reader at those eyes wide shut parties in the Lincoln bedroom that he always used to host during that last term either. Just keeping honest people honest. My fellow trick-or-treaters.
The Florida does.
Aesop talks to the kids.
You guys don't want to hear back what it was like back in the day before the car phone 15s, do you?
It was soon decided that the in no way overqualified governor of the Floridas, one Ronnie St. Diablo. Dude, he went to Dunedin. Dude, I went to Dunedin. Really, there's no way you can get into Yale Law School from Dunedin unless someone bribes your way in for you and your humble origins. Like in a long-term corruption scandal or something. Well, maybe he tested well on a corrupt government official aptitude test. Like from the future or something.
Ronnie, who seemed only qualified to make up of the best, not a people person, Ronnie St. Diablo version of himself that he could. Leveraging evil legislation with his twisted, big corporate, big money interests, and very little else even remotely connected with the legal letter of the law legit.
You guys don't want to hear back what life was like back in the day before they took away the etherwebs, do you?
Ronnie St. Diablo was determined to close down every local community theatre and every arts venue and as many local regional productions of Henry Miller's The Crucible that he could get his terminally shy, not a people person, but he obviously knows where the skeletons in the refrigerator are buried anyway. Boyishly uneven, sly ghostly Undertaker's delivery truck, hands into or onto.
And with his crazy or corrupt or just plain kooky supporters, bleaching their cookies and cheering him on and on and on. Ronnie St. Diablo was in the deep pockets of the big dentistry, in the toothy grins of the big sugar, and in the swamplands of the big pharmacy industries, too. Always shilling and schmoozing for the next big sellout deal to line the pockets of his evil, greedy, clandestine corporate supporters, and all in the name of the mega churches and mega shareholders who had moved your dad's job to South Korea. And with no sign of the public welfare or its better angels in sight.
You kids don't want to hear back what it was like back in the days before they declared that political humor is pornography, do you?
Well, maybe Ronnie St. Diablo had tested well on a middle school corrupt government official aptitude test. Like from the future or something. Until one day...
No business left. Show business. Random facts.
Full disclosure time, the HSN edition.
Yet another shopping network story. So here goes. Well, here's 3 things that you're never supposed to do in a call center environment, just so that you know. And this goes back to even before they had the heavy surveillance that they use these days.
Facts.
I hooked up the burgeoning stand-up comedian 13-year-old smart Alecki schoolboys with the opportunity to speak to the show host. A strict no. I took down the number of a caller in Arizona with my girlfriend's same last name so that my girlfriend could call her from Florida. This behavior was right out. Even back in those days.
Fact.
I told a gal with a thick Brooklyn accent that she was stupid and hopefully change the career trajectory of her life in doing so. Lucy, a future Rosie Perez, the Hoctober Girl, New York edition, just because she thought that ordering something from Home Shopping Network was like ordering a pizza or something, and that if it wasn't hot and delicious and there within a half an hour, that it would be free. And this behavior was also negatively reinforced.
Fact.
Any one of these 3 incidents would probably get you fired or at least written up at a call center today, and you'd even risk getting lousy Yelp reviews as well. But again, they were unable to trace these incidents back to me at the time. We were better off, but were we happier as a culture? Well, the answer isn't probably not. If you can afford to do it, then make the leap to an independent newspaper vendor position today. Be a dopamine dealer at your local college campus. The job you save may be your own.
Facts.
And as we tell ourselves in the mirror in the bathroom, you're beautiful, babe. Don't ever shade. I love all that middle school jazz magazine humor stuff. You're the toppermost of the poppermost. Don't ever shade. Sensational. And what's that you're saying? I refuse to hear you do, because you refuse to hear you do. But maybe it's just a bit of romantic poetry from the brutish literature t-shirt cannons again.
Psychology. Kids today.
A Harvey's magazine book excerpt.
Oh really? No. Oh wrong. I exclaimed. And with Pop in his garters and Mom in her sash, We would just lay ourselves down for a long winter's nap, or around the holidays, as Saint Nick used to say. He used to talk in his sleep, and believe me, he was no saint. Well, they're just one big gimme 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 for the rich these days, aren't they? And one big snow globe public supermarket commercial, ROP off to everyone else who's stupid to understand. And then he'd wake up suddenly and say yuck, too much eggnog. And then he'd retch up and then go back to sleep, or some nights the Easter Bunny would stop over, and they'd stay up all night, and exchange left-handed compliments about each other's fan bases. And of course he used to refuse to go into the more economically disadvantaged neighborhoods for Halloweens too.
Mrs. Santa Claus, killing Santa.
Random day, double house. Same to you, Buddy Press International. Copyright 2024. King Thump Edition.
Religions and theocracy. Oh, they have a good crowd in at the Faux Nerds Network nowadays. They have Brian Kilme, so at least his name smacks of honesty. They have Laura Ingrate. Well, at least she looks like she'd be good in a canoe paddle battle to the death match. She looks like her soul's been hit with an ugly stick already, although she's probably want a piece of the book deal after the canoe paddle battle to the death match eventually did get out of her control. And Greg Gutfield, is he still on? The former ratings king, the pagan saint of late night hilarity. Your neighbour's dog would watch anything after the old man falls asleep, wouldn't he? Greg looks like he never lost his old man baby fat. So it's all Stretch the Untruth's Armstrongs with this grudge-felt dude. And all of this in a world without a William Rated F. Buckley to make us laugh out loud at the reptilian party's self-inflicted foibles and half of our nation's unfortunate Carter calamities these days. Or even a George Will, for that old-timey Ken Burns baseball perspective. And that's a Ken Burns sideburn, even though we love his work, of course. For if I am an honest puck, how can a puck survive?
Psychology Tuesdays. All you care to eat. It looks like the end of Guy Ritchie's Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels in here. Bodies and carnage lying everywhere, and the one guy's like, I think we're in the clear now, fellas, from an actual conversation. Or is it just wishful thinking?
White House Examiner.
There's a fair bit of blondish astroturf atop your head, Mr. Ex-President, and it looks like a well-coiffed mop, or maybe a dead Wolverine to us, and we'd like to examine it for vital signs.
The Donald.
Oh, you mean the outer space symbiont? Ah, he's okay. He won't eat much. But incidentally, please get this thing off of me. Who ever heard of an 80-year-old real-world president of anything? But, just between you and me and the rest of the free world, I'm just trying to look like I work here, okay? My friends put me up to all of this, really. Oops, I gotta feed the outer space symbiont again.
White House Examiner.
Yeah, everything seems status quote-unquote copacetic in here to me. 7 more years and 20 more years to go. Look at me. I'm Roosevelt Franklin.
History lessons observed.
Meanwhile, that one quiet guy in the back of the room can't change history theory of history, where one individual can't really change everything in the modern mass culture that came before it, especially not in the last 10 years. And let's, for once, ignore the obvious. Colin Kaepernick took a knee for the team and later dated that other Super Bowl Taylor Tomlinson, George. Don't know what to do. Now Pink has turned to Husker Jew. Floyd made the US media circus realize that you can't really talk when you are choking. Now cardiac arrest, however.
Sinead O'Connor, who I guess preferred to wear sackcloths instead, threw her career under the bus for all the right smart girl reasons. And Harvey Weinstein, and not his guilt-free brother Max, threw his career and all his millions under the bus just for a cuddle and a peck on the cheek.
But I guess the one-man theory of history has truly met its blustery machismo-dullard match during the last 10 years, with Malachia's scorched earth rose garden burned to the ground policy enabler, and in Robert Barron's apocalyptic meal ticket himself, that once and future spy, magazine poster boy, the Donald Drunks himself. So it's no incentive check, please, no more kings, and checkmate and casket castle for the good old academic one-man theory of history. Sociology buffs, maybe now we can go back to being ordinary, old-school, quasi-crypto-klepto Republicans once again. Just kidding. Hi, Mom.
Letters to the editor.
Yes, sirs and madmans. This country was founded by career-minded dualists who were reading Locke and Rousseau, and Descartes, Aristotle and Plato, and Newton. When they wrote the Articles of Confederation and the US Constitution, and when Jefferson wrote Declaration of Independence, they were all deists and thinkers of the then-current European Enlightenment. And Jefferson was willing to accept that there might be two sides to every story. When he wrote out the Declaration of Independence document, And he was willing to believe that there might be two sides to every story when he wrote all of those letters to Alexander Hamilton as well. They only put all of that God stuff in the historic writings back in the day to appease the presumed Arthur Miller, the Crucible, and Ichabod Crane, Sleepy Hollow, preacher, and schoolteacher types, who might not have signed and ratified the founding fathers' documents if all of that God stuff hadn't gotten a brief mention in their version of the nation story from its beginning. But all obligatory classic literature references aside, I support the evolution as much as anybody does, I suppose. But can you get a message through to the outside world, outside of the florid dust? Can you tell my cousins in Philadelphia that I love them, especially you, Mary B? And can you tell your dog that I love her too? I was just in the middle of cleaning out the garage. Really? When I called, heard the phone ring, and you called.
Atticus Lurch, 1313. To Kill a Mockingbird Lane. The florid dust.
Editor's Redux. Dear Atticus Lurch.
A blindfolded monkey throwing darts at a dartboard during a Category 6 hurricane could do a better job with the economic forecasting than this nasty Pelosi dude and his ilk can do. Women will only respect you if you have mad skills about things. You know it, I know it, Napoleon Dynamite knew it, and the American people know it. Good luck with cleaning out the garage, Atticus Lurch. And can you do something about cleaning out the future Republican cabinets afterwards? Thanks again for reading.
Letters to the editors. Trump equals what?
Dear Peter Close.
I don't know if you kids have ever lived in a prison camp or in a Kafka's penal colony type of an environment before, but I'm afraid that that's what we're really talking about here, gang. When we talk about Project 2025 and the Hermitage Foundation's mandate for fascism, well, at least you might still get to write long, boring Russian prison novels about how miserable everything is, but you can forget all about having them published.
And I mean a very small percent of the so-called elite people might really take right to living conditions imposed on other people like this. And right away too. More for me, mentality type neurosis. But it would really be better if you didn't know the first thing about these type of intolerable conditions, my fellow concerned citizen. Because the truth is that these Disney-type phony Christmas sorts aren't going to be getting very chummy with you once they have secured your vote forever. And you can't use it to vote them out of office anymore, for all time, forever. And you can also forget all about those Irish whiskey rampage romanticized revenge parties if you should fall from grace with Jaw, or even just for waiting for her. Once they consider the Pokes to be their idea of pornography, I guess you're on your own for good, all alone, kids. And there will already be a closed monopoly game on all those getting out of federal prison free cards for violating the local sodomy and the lash laws too, rebel rousers.
With that fourth wife twice removed of yours that you've had your red, bloodshot, dilated, corpulent, corpuscled eyeballs fixated on in a 1,000-yard frat party stare ever so recently, well, you can forget all about that in her too. I mean, personally and professionally, I don't care where, who, or with you play hide-and-go sausage, Hector, or with what major or minor gods or goddesses or minor deities that you happen to believe in and would want to say your wedding vows to, too.
But these reptilians are wanting to put the country into a shotgun wedding with this Project 2025 document and its mandate for fascism and its phony Hermitage Foundation John Bleach society type of a prison lockdown. North Korea for sissy-style government. It's all been building up to this shite for 60 years with the publication of an obscure book by writer R.J. Rushdoony and the development of the Christmas rite in America, with Rushdoony's far-fetched idea of dominionism and his own vision of one version, of a God's self-elected children having dominion and a tight leash rule over the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, and all of those that creepeth upon the earth. And that means you and me, Skippy.
Yours, unanimous, Bob, the Deep South.
Editor's reply.
But you know what their riffraff anti-Pope's secret formula for success is? He neither drinks nor does psychedelic drugs. But we suppose that pent-up demonic Faustian chaos energy has to come out in some form or another, doesn't it? Hence, a weekend Bible salesman is born. The rivulets. The rivulets. You made our brains work, you stupid jerk.
Letter to the editors.
Dear scribblers.
Unless you work at the so-called conservative, so-called Christmas, so-called news satire, so-called website, the Babylon Bleep, then I'm not legally required to make fun of you. Okay, so here goes. House tricks in Jupiter, Florida, skeeters. Well, you gotta keep the coconuts from falling on your own heads anyway, right?
Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago when the toilet paper cost more than the money itself? Not implying anything about your writing itself. Here, of course, oops, all Philistines. It's just don't look up. Strictly off the record shots. But I think those ICBMs that you're inviting will bring all kinds of new and exciting career opportunities to the Flory, this work environment. Yeah, junior squared. It says on your wiki site that you have over 24 writers working for you throughout the US server. But isn't it kind of like throwing out the biblical babies with the biblical bathtub waters?
Not to harsh your the great unseen illusions or anything. But I mean, as long as he really was some 7-foot-tall white dude from Kansas or Missouri State, and not a brown or black man on the road to Golgotha in the Middle East, some 2,000 or so some odd years ago, as was typical of people of that time and in that the same era, and that he wasn't, you know, fooling around with John the Evangelical, like it says he was, and that he wasn't probably dying from some kind of malnutrition anyway, as was typical of people of that time and in that same era. I mean, I'm a progressive Christian, so I'm okay with all of this stuff, really. Then at the very least, he was at the very least the ultimate Nepo baby of all time. So that's a win on your side, fellas, and I'm sure that your ilk can find that all very relatable. Instead, please cancel my subscription to your version of the resurrection. Your only friend is the N. 5 in 10 and 10 to 5. Look left, look right. No one reading your stuff can even stay awake. Anyway, you keep making them and we'll keep eating them.
Signed, your publishers.
It turns out that it is easier for a camel to get into heaven than for a rich man to get into the Eye of Fatima. Just for your information kind of stuff. Really.
Dear, your publishers.
You've got the wrong magazine here, dude. But best of luck in your future publishing assignments and endeavors. Hey, maybe you should submit something to the Babylon Bleep. They do seem a little needy nowadays, don't they?
Letters to the editors.
Do you serve breadsticks in here, Tavern Keeper? Sure body, we serve anybody. Just sit yourself on down, Buster.
Dear Peter Quills.
Hi, it's me again, the previous letter writer. I just had a few more details to clear up. I hope you don't mind, gosh. I'd hate to inconvenience anyone or anything. Yours, Unanimous Bob, the Deep South.
Editor's Redux.
Nope, no problem, Unanimous Bob. We still have some pixels to fill up here anyway. Go right ahead. And so anyway, then I got kicked out of Bikini Kill, and it was like goodbye to all of those Hello Kitty endorsements.
Dear Peter Quills. Thanks.
And anyway, that cute little ugly baby 16-week-old is just going to reincarnate across the street in 2 years again anyway. There are other forms of religious fanaticism, you know. And anyway, you should never keep a college girl waiting, Dave. Ain't that America? Land of the free and home of the brave and little pink terracotta house for you and me. Well, as long as you can afford to live in them anyway. I think some of you unhappy campers are still just pissed off about Ronald Religious Fanatics and his voodoo hoodoo trickle-down economics that left you type dudes out of the loop over 40 years ago. Moral majority. Moral majority. You kids don't know what you're supporting. Try the Union Jack on for size next time first, Steve. And look for the Union label first next time while you're at it too. It has the much cooler stars and bars than the other no alternative.
You're Unanimous Bob, the Deep South.
Editor's reply.
We have good news and bad news, Unanimous Bob. First, we're sure it's not chlamydia, so that's the good news. You just seem like a guy who doesn't choose to use the bottom plug on every wall socket every time, good buddy. So again, you can always teach AP Home Economics classes in Florida in our book. For something to spring forward, fall back on anyway. You have our vote, Unanimous Bob.
Letters to the editor.
Okay, so I've been watching this presidential elections thing and its upcoming cultural wars fallout thing. Like I'm a bookie at the Hialeah racetracks with, a presidential racing form, and I've been running the odds for the daily trifectas and the weekly parimutuel wagering, and so far, I'm thinking maybe if they flip the ticket to a Harris Biden, or this just in, or to a Harris Newsom ticket, and I'm thinking that such a switchover might, give the country just exactly the right 3 or 4 points in the point spread polling that might be needed to win such a racetrack forms competition. I mean, I'm like a 20-year-old Bernie Sanders bro, and I think that, Stephen Colbert has an army in the same way that, Bernie Sanders had an army. But I mean, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few in Gene Roddenberry's America. Bro, you know, I just want what's right for the country, and to live long and prospect enough to see the trains run on time, and everything like they once said that they used to, and everything. And I know that it sounds like an uphill battle and everything, but I mean personally, I'm really just still hoping to occupy Wall Street and all that kind of freedom and democracy type stuff. You're very truly the management.
Editor's reply.
Well, the management. There's content and there's context. This simple fact was enough to get the Steve Urkel, the president of Harvard, fired almost overnight. And she was supposed to be the world's foremost leading authority on everything. It just goes to show you there's content and there's context. Now knock off that singing and finish your homework. Plus, don't you have a secret underground physics homework study cell group to go to in 15 minutes anyway, Tiger?
Oh, there are video games that are even more unreal and unrealistic than even real life, such as it is nowadays.
Letters to the editor.
It's dark in here. Detective, too dark.
Here, little misters. Smarties pants stirs.
You know how cigarettes kill 10 times the number of babies that the so-called religious so-called right say would have been killed by an abortion last year? Well, you don't see anybody outlawing cigarettes, or leaving it for the states to decide anyway. Do you? I'm just keeping honest people honest here. Chemo Sabe. That's all, folks. Joe Camel, the last exit to the left, still appearing on the information superhighway signs of the US survey. P.S. No worries. That sweet little STD with the angel's face would have just reincarnated at the house down the street again in 2 years anyway. Betcha can't say the same thing about your granddad's government-sponsored black lung issues. However, can I get an ahem?
Editor's Redux.
Dear Joe Cannabis, I think that maybe you and I are becoming the kinds of angry mothers that our own angry mothers warned us about. Well, at least when they were our age anyway.
Letter to the editor.
Dear friend or foe. Or is that cloak or Claude? Do you think that's funny? Do you think that that's funny? Why do you ask? Is this a common expression these days? Does Chuckles Tarlson or Seth Rogen say that a lot on their court-ordered podcasts? But aren't you kind of paying him to decide what sounds funny to you in the first place? Don't you think that that sounds kind of, well, funny? I mean, Jay Leno got 10 years out of Monica Lewinsky jokes, just as Faux Nerds Network got 8 years out of Kyle Rittenhouse self-congratulations. So when the idea first came up that we late-night viewers might get another 4 years out of Donald Grump jokes after that first 8 years of the garbled drunks jokes, we were like, sure, sign us up, we'll just vote for our moms in protest this year instead. But this was before the Hermitage Foundation's America-ending mandate for censorship, and this Product 2025 serial stalker, Mad Infesto, that came up on the US Culture's Mayday radar screens after a John Oliver whistleblowing segment. Now is the time for all true men to still bad coyotes and come to the service of their culture. Between Freddie versus Jason in this next election, I think maybe we should vote for Joe Biden and his Mitch McConnell moments. Unless a better demographic candidate can happen along immediately, if not sooner. Well, not that sooner guy. But any moderate Democrat between 40 and 60 could turn this nightmare round. Don't why I know. Look it up if you don't believe us, because sometimes we don't believe us either.
Chuckles Tarlson, the podcast graveyard, somewhere in a lost America. Hey, I know when I'm not on America's Most Wanted.
Editor's reply.
Reflecting back, you know, I've just always been more into the old-timey stuff instead. My grandfather died when I was 5 years old, and it was like, that guy who does the great Dom DeLucy faces from the movies isn't going to be here for dinner anymore. So, Corp Denim sees the denim, boys. It's funny how everybody has a story. You just have to look for it to find out what's behind it in the first place. We dig you, Chuckles Tarlson, but we just wouldn't know where to bury you.
Letters to the editor.
I just figured that he'd be some kind of a fourth world dictator from day one, like he said he would. You know, fight, fight, fight. Of course, me and all the other 60-year-old shareholders who sent your jobs overseas in the first place are all about that. You know, just as long as we don't have to rip our expensive trousers trying to jump over a picket fence or anything. Fight, fight, fight. Just make sure it's you and not me, with my various conditions and predispositions. I don't blame yours, really. Bone spurs and stripes forever. Lindsey Graham, crackers, making a decent living off of your tax dollars. The Washington, D.C. machines. US of FLA, P.S. If he is a phony, at least he's our phony. Or else then, that means I was wrong about him. And that just isn't even possible. Is it?
Editor's Redux.
Nice try, Avik Ramaswamy, but we knew it was you from the handwriting on the wall. Dude, you're all branding and no heart. We're a little tired of your nonsense. But what's the sense of anything at all when you get right down to it, actually? We fooled you. We really had you going there. Fight, fight, fight. Haha, you should have seen the look that came across your face. And do you have any famous last words for the class of 2024, Dr. Goodwill Hunter S. Tompkinson's Gazelle? Indeed I do, Lee and crowd. Carp denim. Seize the denim.
A letter from the editor. You gentle readers following along at home might think that with our comic book videos here at Radio SHAZZBOT, that as creator content, we're just mixing Mad Magazine-influenced AI artwork with and a Monty Python-influenced AI take on the American radio shows of the 1940s, using AI character voices. And to we here at Radio SHAZZBOT, you wouldn't be far off, really. Our only goal with this series of comic book video episodes at this point would seem to be putting our so-called cross-state rivals, the Babylon Bee, out of business as quickly and suddenly as is humanly possible. Plus, well, the Babylon and On Bee, being a so-called far-right-wing, so-called humor, so-called content website, would seem to be a natural predator to our secular humanist take on progressive Democrat politics, and plus the fact that they smell bad, and their mama dresses them funny. So we guess you figured out our agenda of putting them out of business fairly early on, gentle readers. As we are a fair and honest puck, subscribe early and often, and keep watching these pages. We know that you can't take your eyes off of them, of course. For more venom, vitriol, and good sports updates, and more invigorating social radar coverage than those other guys, the human boat shoes. Hate it.
And the infant.
If you've made it to the end of this comic book radio show, then you deserve to give yourself a huge round of applause and maybe some cookies and beer to be keeping up with the jokesters next door. Now go watch some cognitive psychology, true crime files, cooking programs, or someone else's family, based in TV reality, game show host bloopers real or imagined, or another, you've earned it. Truth believers, thanks for your ears, and remember, feedback is always welcome.
Meanwhile, 2 million people are frantically searching for running water in the Gaza Strip. Peace out.
Copyrights 2024. No CGI was harmed in the making of this comedy, radio, comic book, podcast episode. Radio SHAZZBOT, Issue 03,
September 2024.
Post Office Pup,
Episode 0303.
Every single perfect people day.
or
Same old story. Killing time. Have I wanted.
a 5-scene cartoon, improv radio, comics book video.
By J. Drewster Poindexter.
Episodes titles from Pennywise. About Time. 1995.
Scene 1,
Panel 1.
Kimmy.
Where have you been, Uncle Pup? I sent you to the grocery store for just 2 items, and that was 4 days ago. You know, it's funny how Star Wars never caught on like the Rocky Horror Dentist Show franchise did, with all the late-night crowds throwing tooths at the screen and dressing up like Frankensurgeon and whatnot. I wonder where Uncle Post Office Pup could be? You don't think he went to a late-night showing of the Rocky Horror Dentist Show, do you? It's almost 4 o'clock at night, and he said that he'd be back by 10 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was 4 days ago. He also said that there'd be no late-night dental equipment throwing for him anymore, that he learned his lesson from the x-rays the last time. Besides, there's 2 lanes of Hesher traffic jams coming out of the Science Friction Stadium for the Croaked Thunder Gyps Rock Concert Tour rally again tonight. Although I'm sure old Croaked Thunder Gyps is just playing the one actual hit wonder over and over again on the tour bus this morning. I hope that Uncle Pup didn't get mixed up in all that unruly ruckus. Well, give the people the governor that they deserve, and they'll always come back looking for more, like my Uncle Pup always used to say.
Panel 2.
Gertrude.
Well, don't write him out of the series too fast, Kimmy. I think that he's a lot more resourceful than all that. I mean, I know he's only your biological uncle, Kimmy. But I still don't see how you don't get all starstruck in traffic yourself with an uncle who used to be a famous celebrity TV star, like your Uncle Pup used to be. I mean, he used to be a famous TV actor, so he can pretty much write his own tickets. Can't he? Hey, I have an idea to get your mind off of waiting for your uncle. Let's do something crazy, Kimmy, and we can surprise your Uncle Post Office Pup, too. Let's walk down to that one Mumbles King hot dog restaurant, where the cooks where the cook cooks, those meatless plant-based hot dogs with that good movie theater-style butter cheese topping. I think that really skinny girl with all the face tattoos is cooking and mopping up the tabletops in the booths again tonight. And I'm not kidding. She always cooks those corn dogs to perfection. Some of the best meatless plant-based hot dogs with movie theater-style butter cheese toppings that I've ever had. And we can bring some back for your Uncle Post Office Pup. And soon he'll be back. And it'll give him that same old 5,000-yard stare again, Kimmy.
Panel 3.
Kimmy.
Meatless hot dog burgers. Didn't they accidentally put those kinds of restaurants out of business by outlawing them and giving the dispensary licenses to the bangers who originally built that industry in the first place? Just yet, Gertrude? Well, to eat his own, I suppose. Write what you know to be true, as the bard of Lisa Stansfield upon on-calling was once quoted as saying. I won't feel bad if you want to go without me, Gertrude, but I think that I'm just going to sit here and eat cereal for dinner again tonight. They make these new cereals just for dinner these days. Cocoa Puff cutlets, or Frankenberry food fillets, Yum, or Trix ribeye meatless steaks, delightful. I could just eat all of these cereals for dinner at once tonight.
Gertrude.
Oh, I wasn't just virtue signaling with that idea, Kimmy. I was just spitballing some ideas around here. Really? Say, did my laundry get finished yet? Thanks for letting me put some stuff in the dryer, cousin. You know, no less than an authority than Jim Morristones once said. You know, I've noticed that when people are being funny, that they're usually pretty serious. And when they're being serious, they're usually pretty funny. Then he said, hey, let's just throw music journalists down the steps, and then go lie down in the street until the police come. So he was usually being a pretty funny guy with all that. Just stay off those drugs now, Kimmy. As Jim Morristones always used to say.
Panel 4.
Post office pop. Enters.
So there's 3.5 minutes that I'll never look at the same way again. Well, I know when I'm on America's most unwanted list, so I will see you all in the morning.
Kimmy.
Uncle Pup, where the F have you been? I sent you out to buy some more boxes of cereal for dinner, and that was 4 whole days ago. We were getting the worried unto death sickness about you. If Gertrude hadn't come over to put some things in the laundry, well, I was about to lose my sweet disposition and all of my religions, Uncle Pup. I don't mind saying.
Post office pop.
Well, they don't call it the extreme court because it comes with the added sour cream with it. Your haziness. Ha ha. For I am still drunk after all these days, and I am still stuffed full with piss and vinegar-flavored sour grapes. For my good buddy, Mr. Chesterfield, who I went out to get those breakfast cereal for dinner flakes with. If it please you, heinous heiress highness, your honor.
Panel 5.
Gertrude.
Whoa, Kimmy. Your Uncle Pop is really like a big deal show business celebrity on TV level drunk. I don't even know how you can even stand to speak to such a man of his brilliant stature. Can I have your autograph again, please, Mr. Post Office Pop? And this time I promise not to say what you're spelling, because this autograph is for my unborn grandchildren. Again, if you really need to know.
Kimmy.
I have never myself been an impressive person in this type of a situation, Uncle Pup. Basically, I'm going to bed, and without breakfast, cereal for dinner. Don't knock on my door unless my Rottweiler, Skittles is her name, in fact knows your name. And whatever you do, don't let my Rottweiler learn your name. Good night.
Panel 6.
Gertrude.
Well, I for one, would like to know what you and Mr. Chesterfield have been up to for the last 4 days, Mr. Pop.
Post office pop.
Andy Serkis? Heck, if my girlfriend looked like Andy Serkis, I'd listen to her too, dude. Well, what's the point of someone else forgiving you if you can't forgive yourself, dude? And besides, they're only student loans anyway. But I suppose it's the principle that's placed on the interest of the matter that really matters, Gertrude. You sweet thing. Did you ever look up Google on Google.com, my dear? It'll really just give you a history of Google. But did you ever look up dictionary in a dictionary or the word encyclopedia in an encyclopedia? See then, you are in for a world-class world of sarcastic entertainment.
Gertrude.
Wowzers. You should have your own separate entry on WikiLeaks, Mr. Post Office Pop.
Scene 2.
Panel 1.
Post office pop. In voiceover.
It really was 4 days ago, Gertrude. Well, the infectious Groover's Farm Film weather report did indicate on the funk metal radar said the traffic was going to be unusually well. You know, dangerous and funky. The other night. And my best neighbor, Mr. Chesterfield, had tickets to the local neighborhood gambling casinos, which is just a short walk for him here. So, where have I been for 4 days? Well, I mean, opinions are like F-holes on a guitar. Everybody's got one, really. But Mr. Chesterfield was just sure that we could win big at the local neighborhood gambling casinos this time out.
Post office pop. In voiceover.
So it all happened something like this.
Mr. Chesterfield.
Hey, Post Office Pop. Thanks for agreeing to go with me to the local neighborhood gambling casino. You know, you weren't here, but last weekend I went to a weekend retreat at a resort. It was mind expanding, and now all of my middle school clothes fit again. And now I identify as a hot Buffalo Wing Episcopalian these days too. And I do think it's funny how everybody has a story anymore.
Panel 2.
Post office pop.
You're kind of a lot sometimes, Mr. Chesterfield. But you say that you've got tickets to the neighborhood gambling casino tonight?
Mr. Chesterfield.
Hey, did you have the news on the Weekly Weird News website read to you yet today, Post Office Pop? It seems that an elderly woman found an 8-foot alligator in her bathtub. It was a local story, but this being the floor it does, well, nature of course took its course, and she put a ring on the poor frightened thing. And it seems that the now pregnant newlyweds are expected to honeymoon in her backyard tool shed during the next full moon, at God plus America. Well, that's the expression that two carved into a nearby tree for their weekly Weird News wedding photos. Anyway, and they registered a wedding pattern at the World Health Organization too. Say, have you ever actually eaten roadkill, Post Office Pop? Supposedly eating leftover and left behind bear and alligator carcasses is a surefire. expressway to your skull method of getting brain worms. Can you imagine that, good buddy? Well, I still put my faith in our want-to-be elected officials. Don't you, Uncle Pop?
Panel 3.
Post office pup.
You're kind of a lot sometimes, Mr. Chesterfield. That alligator wedding story sounds kind of fishy and kind of anthropomorphologically impossible too. My fellow retail sales wars casualty, doesn't it though? But we don't want to go back to the bad old days of the Roe versus Dodd Championship Wrestling Battle Royales, do we? I wish the happy couple all the luck in the weekly weird news world. And that alligator humanoid hybrid baby makes 3, I suppose. I'm sorry, did you say anything that wasn't shocking and mildly disturbing news after that? Chester Fumes? I was trying to look at this map in the dark. Well, according to the local legends, here we are at the neighborhood gambling casino. Did you remember to bring those admission tickets, young feller?
Mr. Chester Fumes.
I sure did, Pot Office Pup. And the kid is feeling hot tonight. And it's just the infectious Groover's weather forecast that predicted that the funky radar screen is looking unusually, well, you know, tight and groovy tonight. Hey man, that's why we do what we do. And can you dig it, Post Office Pup?
Panel 4.
Post office pup.
And so, soon, chronologically speaking,
Post office pup.
all these Confederate brand local neighborhood gambling casinos, with their bright barred Bitcoin Brexit exit currency exchanges. It's hard to tell whether you're winning or losing any more or less with these new machines.
Attendant security rent a car.
Is there some problem here, fellas? You know, you're here for those machines. Those machines aren't here for your entertainment. You boys are the product in this transaction, fellas. It ain't like it used to be, where the only way to bankrupt a gambling casino was to bet against the better interests of the house. But things have sure shortchanged since the new Republican mandates went into effect. You got some kind of an issue with this transaction. You consumer products, you? The corporation has to make a living wage too. You know.
Post office pup.
Oh, no problem here. Paulina Blart, rent a robot in a tuxedo. We were just out for our evening constitutional, and we figured that we'd try our luck, not press our luck, try our luck, at your fine dungeon of depravity. Come on, Mr. Chesterfield, let's move on to the craps portion of this event, and then we'll see if our luck can't change with some loose change women at the Texas Hold'em changing tables.
Panel 5.
And so sooner, chronologically speaking.
Even Stevens.
Bleep, bleep, bleep. Ha ha ha. That's it. That was exactly the wrong answer button that we're working with here tonight. But the trivial tonight in-house game show answer we were looking for was, what is the fallacy of proximity? Aristotle and his silly syllogisms was of course the category. What is the fallacy of proximity? Well, no points with that one, but your point is certainly taken. And thanks for playing anyway. Most people just wander off with a befuddled look on their face and a lot less money in their pockets after a big loss like that one. Any advice for your fans? Haha, don't try this at home. Roger Wilco from Los Alamos, Cartoonfornia. Thanks again for playing. And so it's thanks so much for playing all the way into our second round here at the Trivial Tonight in-house game show. I'm Even Stevens and I'll be your local neighborhood game show host for this evening. Because that's my pseudonym, of course. Do we have any other potential contestants in the audience here tonight? Boys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen of all ages.
Even Stevens.
Ah, you there. You look like Scooby's Droopy's brother-in-law, Scrappy Dote, after a hard day's drunk of pilfered Scrappy snacks here tonight, sir. One of Jerry's kids, are you? Haha, another talking dog. You're our fourth one this half hour. Can you state your name and where you're from and where you're at this evening, so to speak, sir?
Post office pup.
Who me? Look, I'm just here to win back all the money that I just lost at the craps table and to meet a couple of lucky girls. I'm by no means a fully qualified professional, Trivial Tonight, in-house game show contestant. I'm just another talking dog archetype, really.
Panel 6.
Even Stevens.
Ha ha ha, you got it. Thanks, pal. And the straw's in the bag. Right, big fella, ha ha ha. Well, the thermal information infotainment scan that the authorities ran on you when you walked into this part of the neighborhood gambling casino building states that you used to be famous. Isn't that right, buddy? Oh, a child animal actor, huh? It says here that you used to star as Post Office Pup on something called a TV network. On a TV series called Different Facts, it says here. This goes way back before the content platforms of today. Boys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen of all ages. Stay with me here. Ha ha ha.
Even Stevens.
And these must be your lovely dates for this evening, Penelope and Veronica. They're computer dating apps, and they're here not to foul, spindle, and mutilate you. Haha, but to give you a weekend of ultimate pleasure. You've won at the demographics, boys, and the statistics do not lie. Like the late great Ray Stevens once sang, computers don't make mistakes.
Post office pup.
But, we were just looking to put a smile on the faces of some of the local girls. We never signed up for any of all of this.
Mr. Chester Fumes.
Hi, Vero. Nabi. Hi, Pennell. Ika.
Stephen Evans.
Oh, come on now, boys. Computers don't make mistakes. Once again, the answer we were looking for before was what is the fallacy of proximity. You've won this all expenses paid longest weekend of your lives ever here at the neighborhood gambling casinos. And just look at these robot hookers, boys. Well, that's just the way that things work here at our Trivial Tonight in-house game show. Mr. Chester Fumes and Mr. Post Office Pup, don't blow it with these professional girls. Don't make this thing turn ugly. The girls here still have 6 more years of robot law school to pay for. Ha ha ha.
Scene 3.
Panel 1.
Post office pup. In voiceover.
Now, Gertrude. We went to jail overnight for these alleged improprieties with these sex robots, and through no fault of our own either. But it wasn't anything that we did wrong, per se. The gambling casino wanted to charge us for breach of contract because Mr. Chester Fumes and I never really wanted to do our carrying on with these sex robots. They called it a breach of an implied contract. T was all a frame-up, and just a massive publicity stunt, really.
Gertrude.
Gosh, Mr. Post Office Pup, but you're so wonderful and so full of integrity that I can't imagine someone as amazing as you ever getting mixed up in some kind of a publicity stunt. Tell me more about your heroic and exciting adventures with the local neighborhood gambling casino. Did they take you to a local court over this breach of contract farce? What a sham. The diabolical fiends themselves. Tee. I heard that dialogue on a recent episode of Cops and Robbers. Comedians driving around in police cars and trying out the decaf.
Panel 2.
Post office pup.
Well, you do know, Gertrude, that a man of my stock and trade resides ever indifferent to the laws and regulations of love, or even to the inner workings of the local ordinances that apply to sex robot laws, at least as they apply here, in Los Alamos, California. But that's a little besides the point. Sex with a robot? Yup, that would be like having sex with one of J.D. Fandango's fold-out living room sofa sleeper couches, or one of his Ottoman Empire Section 8 perversions or something. There's just more to life than sex with a sex robot for me, you know? D. That game show host, even Stevens in his entourage, had told Mr. Chester Fumes and I that it was T-minus 10 minutes to curtain call. And I just told them that they'd have to count me out. But they do have a sizable web presence, however, my dear. If you like that sort of thing, doll face. And I guess it was by then that they had already declared their intentions. Well, let's get on with the flashback. Gertrude, as I recall, it went a little something like this.
Panel 3.
Court announcer.
Hearsay, hearsay. Step right up. Small claims breach of contract court will now come to order, with the Honorable Judge Christmas Tree Shapiro residing. All rise up and place your bets now.
Judge Shapiro.
Good morning, campers, and ladies and gentlemen of all ages and income ranges and different IQ brackets. Read the case before the court if you would, Mr. Court Announcer.
Panel 4.
Court announcer.
Hold on. Just let me finish this. Well, I'll be Dange Brown. Conspiracy novel first. Okie there. So it was to that deep Grinch McMuffin buried in the back pages of the Dr. Seuss desk referenced children's book. And it was all downhill racing snow sledded together at the last minute in the in-between pages of the last 3, well, I'll be Dange Brown novels. So that's really the hambungler accusing the hamburglar, isn't it? Well, dang me, dang me. Someone ought to get a rope and hang me out to dry the next time instead. I should have seen that one coming, really. Or, conspiracy theories really were a lot more fun before everybody and his crazy ex-brother-in-law started to get all mixed up and involved in them. Okie, so anyway. So it is alleged, Your Honor, that the defendant and his cohort refused to fulfill the requirements given in an implied contract between the local neighborhood gambling casino and the alleged perpetrators of the breach of contract in this case. Your Honor, the T gentlemen refused to take a photo ops with the sex robots for our online website presence, Your Honor.
Panel 5.
Judge Shapiro.
And will the attorneys representing the local neighborhood gambling casino, the attorneys from the law office of Schmoopy, Fluky, and Glumco LLC, please approach the bench to give their opening statements. Now, Schmoopy, Fluky, and Glumco, those names sound more like extreme court justice brat certainly have had enough old high school drinking and weight staffing buddies. But you guys really are practicing attorneys now, aren't you? Or should I pull your background checks and see if this is just another one of the extreme court's practical jokes as part of some kind of hazing ritual? Or is it?
Schmoopy.
We're sorry, Your Honor. And it is all just a practical joke as some part of a hazing ritual with brats certainly have had enough old high school drinking and weight staffing buddies. But you should have seen the look on your face. Your Madame Judgeship. We really had you going there for a while, didn't we?
Panel 6.
Judge Shapiro.
Well, next time, boys, why not try the Cretans list, legal notices, classified section first? Maybe you can waste their time first next time, instead of wasting the time of this courtroom. There's all kinds of decadent debauchery and depravity on the Cretans list, legal notices, classified section. But I'm going to have to hold you, Mr. Chester Fumes and Mr. Post Office Pup, in contempt of court instead. To sort of advance the plot, such as it is, anyway. Do you have any closing statements to make? There, the attorneys from the law offices of Schmoopy, Frooky and Glumco LLC. See, this court is a little slammed and backlogged with cases, and your name is at the top of the paperwork, so your types usually win in this sort of a fast turnover courtroom hearing type thing anyway.
Schmoopy.
Oh, closing statements, huh? I think I heard about that once on that Cops and Robbers. Comedians in police cars getting decaffeinated TV content platform one time recently. Okay, here it goes. Spoiler alert. Just because we just had to ruin it for you, Mr. Courtroom Announcer. See, in that, well, I'll be Dange Brown, conspiracy procedural fantasy literature that you're reading. Okay, here it goes. The publisher did it.
Mr. Chester Fumes.
And by the way, unchallenging, Mr. Courtroom Announcer. Okay, so you're saying that, well, I'll be Dange Brown, conspiracy theory fantasy novels are unchallenging, and all the same now, Mr. Courtroom Announcer, just like they always used to be? Well, the idea is that it's a decent mystery saga that was written for 70-year-olds of all ages. Well, maybe there's no scientific curiosity left inside of you. Instead, Mr. Courtroom Announcer. And these are their stories.
Scene 4.
Panel 1.
Commercial. Donald's Jr.'s.
Would you buy a used Bible from this man? Hi, I'm Donald's Jr.'s, weekend Bible salesman and weekend father. Say, even the few weekend Bible thumpers who can read more than a rock salt gunpowder recipe into the Holy Scriptures without a little league life coaching themselves, must themselves someday come to realize that both the con man and the promise grabber must someday lie down together, and then both get up with fleas as well. With our new incredible reproduction of the White Belt Judeo X-Mass Bible, the King Donald Bible, both the con man and the promise grabber can finally lie together, and guilt-free too. And it's all yours, beautifully wrapped for only $60 a pop. Or buy two and save. The love you conserve might be yours to own, in this bountiful volume that you'll never read anyway. Well, at least he knows what we mean anyway. Stay tuned and stand by for unconditional savings and details on how you can get your hands on this incredible Weekend Bible. Available from the fearless folks at Weekend Bible Industries. Do today.
Panel 2.
Kimberly Wergild foiled.
You'll feel the need to spread them. Your own wings, that is. And watch yourself ascend as you spend the minutes that might actually turn into hours, pretending that you're preparing for the hereafter in your own spare time, and in the luxury and infinity of your own private Idaho space of the vastness of reality. Pretend that you're the one who's really rich. In spirit anyway, just like the big shots. With your very own wallpaper and the asylum quality copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of this incalculatable King Trump classic version of this classic document. It's an indescribable reclamation and a bad reincarnation of the original, genuine, Dark Night of the Souls. And this timeless book of faith, and not always fact, can be yours now, for one incredibly low price. Secure your copy of a copy of a copy of a copy today. The same book that shiftless, hapless, down on their hope, drifters like yourselves have probably already been turning to for decades in the so-called real world, can provide you with a peace of mind and a real sobriquet at hotel, motel, art fair, rest stops, still existent Howard Johnson's restaurants, the failing KKK camping resorts, and Airbnb's playway stations for 2,000 plus years to come. Get yours now, and prepare for all the elongated, hardened, dark age decades left to come.
Panel 3.
Donald's Jr.'s.
That's right, Kimberly Wergild foiled. Remember, sometimes the rust is often the only thing holding that car together. But for a limited time only, we'll let you have it with this formally free document for only $60. And don't forget to smash that election button and check out King Donald's merchandise booth. Plus, if you act now, we'll also send you a non-debatable comma and hyphen-free reproduction of that other freethinker's Bible, the USA Constitution. Hey, why get it for free when you can instead pay big money for it and pay more for it a little later, too? If you're one of those Philistines who didn't take money from the Donald in his consumer rebate offer from year 2 or the last time, now's your chance to take something of real value from the Donald that won't make you feel like one of his prostitutes. You'll get the King Donald version of the Bible, the debate-free Constitution, and the peace of mindfulness in knowing that there are no other options, because of course there are no other valid forms of religion.
Kimberly Wergild foiled.
That's right, Donald's Juniors. Just send 3 easy payments of $19.99 to Projects 1984, Post Office Box Y2K, still at that last carry White House on the left, Mine Sweet, Wyoming 32,323. And don't forget, the love you can serve might be yours to own, and yours alone. Do today. But just between you and me, all you Divinity School students, the Calamites lived among the Israelites, and many of them were one and the same with the historical Israelites. There's DNA evidence now. Just look it up if you don't believe us. Hey, it'll be our little secret. All you Divinity School students.
Announcer.
So that number again, Project 1984, Post Office Box Y2K, still at that last carry White House on the white, Mine Sweet, Wyoming 32,323, and it says here, please allow 6 or 8 epochs for deliverance. And for this I spent 2 months in broadcast journalism school in the Yucatan Peninsula.
Panel 4. And later, back at and Kimmy's and Post Office Pup's mobile home double-wide trailer on the outskirts of Los Alamos, Cartoonfornia.
Gertrude.
Gosh, that's terrible. What happened after that, Mr. Post Office Pup? Did they really hold you and Mr. Chesterfumes in contempt of court in breach of contract small claims court? And just because the local neighborhood gambling casino had their name on the top of the courtroom paperwork, I thought you were just a little bit more famous than all of that, Mr. Post Office Pup. And did they really hold the 2 of you as prisoners in county lockup for, like, 4 days? And on some kind of fake law officers of Schmoopy, Frookie, and Glumco LLC drunked up charges for contempt of court. But I thought they had the no-fault justice proceedings in Los Alamos, Cartoonfornia. Maybe I should wake up Kimmy and tell her the bad news. Maybe all is not as it appears to be on Cops and Robbers. Comedians driving around in police cars, just trying out the decaf.
Panel 5.
Post Office Pup.
Well, Gertrude, at my age, it seems like you could just hitchhike back to the distant past some days. And yet, on other days, it seems like you're now far too many decades removed from back when you could just hitchhike to anywhere. It's all right. Wake her up if you want to. I've really just been rehearsing for what I'm going to tell her when she wakes up anyways. But it all just seems like it all happened to someone else maybe only a few hours ago, to be perfectly honest with you. Here, let me rehearse the story I'm going to tell my favorite niece Kimmy for a little while longer while I sober up some more. Well, Gertrude, it was another one of those lost weekends in a holding tank holding cell for Mr. Chesterfumes and I. But it was really nothing new, actually. Some people think it's important to stay in touch with your inner gangster, Gertrude, my dear. But I think it's important to stay in touch with your inner mod, ska post-punk enthusiast drummer. Hey, I should give that player a call sometime soon. Really.
Panel 6.
Gertrude.
Well, I don't see how a lost weekend in county lockup can be taken so lightly by an older post-celebrity. Cartoon dog like yourself and your friend, Mr. Chesterfields. Mr. Post Office Pup. I don't even see how that's even physiologically possible. In fact, the whole thing sounds a little anthropomorphologically impossible. And it even sounds just a little bit fishy to me. Mr. Post Office Pup.
Post Office Pup.
I'll be honest with you, Gertrude. That last explanation of my missing 4-day weekend might have had a bit of a writer's embellishment to it. If it was a movie, I know that you'd have seen better films on dental charts. Or maybe on avalanche-tinted sunscreen minivans in a disaster movie or something, Dollface. But here's an explanation of that last 4-day weekend that will really bring the Shelty and Waldog Hotel guests and theater patrons out of you, Gertrude. It defies plausibility too, and the gravity of the situation as well. But it should at least leave no doubt as to the sanity of your friend's unreliable narrator, Uncle. Well, let's see now. Where did we leave off? That is, after we left off in the courtroom scene.
Scene 5.
Panel 1.
Commercial. First announcer.
Mankind has reached his zenith of achievement. He or she has reached his or her most extraordinary possible level of obtainable wonderfulness. And all that with one simple advancement in car wax idealization. And the new can dyed by Voltaire Yertle Wax is just that such of an achievement. We have, each one of us, evolved to humankind's greatest apotheosis of development, or at least one that is humanly or heavenly possible. Things simply could not possibly get any better with this, the greatest of all possible moments in humankind's evolution. And the new can dyed by Voltaire Yertle Wax is just that such an achievement.
Second announcer.
You simply couldn't imagine things possibly being even capable of getting any better. And after only one simple application of the new can dyed by Voltaire Yertle Wax stuff, too.
First announcer.
Well, except for all of the war, disease, horror, and mayhem that currently plagues the human condition, of course. But setting aside all of that, and all of the corporate greed and consumer brainwashing, and if you can get past the office politics and the lack of individual employment opportunities that are only inevitable outcomes without adequate union representation, and all of the insensitive racial profiling and stereotyping that goes on at both sides of the counter at your local factory, farm, cube kiosk, or your local Sevenfold Path Auto Parts Center, where this Candide by Voltaire Yertle Wax, this shite, is exclusively available.
Panel 2.
First announcer.
But you know, thinking about it, for like just one gloriously incandescent moment of clarity here, and I just had a moment of clarity just last month, so I really think I know what I'm talking about here. Look, I'm just this one omniscient sounding radio content announcer. I can't know everything. I can't be everywhere. Well, not in any real sense anyway, whispered, and I think I'm having a nervous breakdown just thinking about it all.
Second announcer.
That's Candide by Voltaire Yertle Wax.
Panel 3.
First announcer.
This is where it ends. And so this is where my broadcast journalism career has dropped me off at. I'll lose this job, and now I'll lose my job with Weekend Bible Industries too. I'll lose everything. There'll be no need for Candide by Voltaire Yertle Wax where I'm going. Goodbye, cruel world. Goodbye. Well, at least I might get a few restless weeks of sleep and recreation at my local sanitarium out of the deal. So I guess I still got that going for me anyway. Farewell, all you lucky so and so's out there in radio listener land. Adieu, adieu. And this is all the thanks that I get.
Second announcer.
Candide by Voltaire Yertle Wax. Available exclusively at all Sevenfold Path Auto Parts Centers.
Third announcer. Even Stevens.
Warning, health risk. Do not use Candide by Voltaire Yertle Wax indoors or near wildlife. Or if you have a history of inhalant-based hallucinations, may cause severe paranoia and symptoms of nervous breakdown in omniscient-sounding radio content announcers. Use only as directed.
First announcer.
There, can you hear the sirens? You know, when you're over 30 and you start hearing ambulance sirens, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should become an EMT. They're coming to take me away, ha hee yo ho, to my local neighborhood community health intake services location, where life is happy all the time.
Panel 4.
And meanwhile, back at that same later, only a little while after Kimmy has been woken up one too many times by all the talking and commotion in the living room of Kimmy and Post Office Pup's double-wide mobile home trailer.
Kimmy.
While you two were busy with your Grace finds beauty in ugly things banter rhetoric seminar, I took the liberty of waxing the kitchen floor. I hope you two don't mind, but I was listening in on your conversation the whole time. Hey, careful. Don't slip on my newly waxed floor. I also hope you don't mind that I looked up the local sheriff's department criminal verification hotline on the interwebs, and it looks like you and Mr. Chesterfumes were in county lockup custody for 4 days total. I'm sorry, I doubted you. But how did you stay drunk for so long?
Post Office Pup.
Well, as hard to imagine as it might seem, we hadn't been drinking for the whole 4 days. When we got out of county lockup just this morning, Mr. Chesterfumes convinced me that after the breach of contract courtroom hearing, we should go back to the local neighborhood gambling casino and give them a piece of our minds and try to win some of our tasered reputations. Back here, it went something like this.
Panel 5.
Gertrude.
Now hold on. No more flashbacks tonight. I don't want to listen to any more of your prefabrications, Mr. Post Office Pup. And I don't think that your niece Kimmy here wants to hear any more of them either. You're flabbergasted old sot, and my laundry is finished in the dryer. If you still want me to hero worship you in the morning, I think we should all think about getting some sleep tonight.
Kimmy.
Now you be careful, Gertrude. You know how he is when he's been getting into his water dishes. When Post Office Pup gets plastered and annihilated like he is now, he doesn't understand English, and he won't very easily listen to reason. He's like a different anthropomorphological cartoon doggy entirely. But he does pick up on a few buzzed words. But he just reacts to those few buzzed words in an overly excited fashion.
Panel 6.
Post Office Pup.
Come on, Kimmy. Same recognizes same. As game recognizes game. When I get a little flabbergasted, it's more like a kind of Rorschach test. Really. It takes on the kind of atmosphere where it's forever changing its impression. And you could look at it again in 6 months, and it might give off an entirely different meaning. And then give off a completely different impression, too. Say, I just got finished reading in one of Mr. Chesterfield's recent weekly Weird News issues. And one of the articles says that this current bad guy governor is responsible for creating more radicalized and more woke suburban housewives than any other wannabe nasty dictator in Los Alamos, Cartoonfornia history. That does require a little suspension of disbelief, I suppose. But then, I voted for the current president because I thought he'd be against change. I've made the decision. I'm going to beat these crooks at their own game. I'm going to get involved in the local politics.
Kimmy.
You. Same old Uncle Pup. Now that's the post office pup that I remember.
Gertrude.
Can I have your autograph again? Please, Mr. Post Office Pup.
Next episode.
It's what you try with it, do. Not a way for searching. Freebase.
Blur.
Peaceful Waste. Day of Time.
Copyrights 2024. Thanks and respect to Pennywise. About Time. 1995. Epitaph Recordings. For the episode titled Anagram Mashups.
Radio SHAZZBOT. Issue 03. September 2024.
Beta Maximum Overdraft.
Episode 0306, Humors and Innuendos, the Nouveau Retro Zeitgeist Errata, and Letters to the Editors.
By J. Drewster Poindexter.
The opinions expressed in these pages do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the crew chiefs and shift managers of Invisible Ink Publications, and they are intended primarily for satirical purposes only. Plus the fact that, also. Anyway, any resemblance to any public or private figure is purely coincidental. Please note, some of this was written before more recent developments. Reader discretion is advised. Gilbert and Sullivan are the names of the gentlemen who sign the paychecks at my house. Banana Nose.
1. The Flory Does.
I wonder if George Washington ever slept at George Washington University. You know, maybe even once in the whole time that he was taking classes there.
Uncle Grandpa didn't really speak any English, but he did react suddenly and excitedly to the few buzzwords that he could understand. And he was sometimes triggered biochemically by these buzzwords into an adrenaline-fueled fright or flight cocktail mix-up, so that after that you'd simply have to replenish his cheap weekend case of Beer Wiser. Really, life was so much simpler back in those days before the internet hookup connections took place.
But that's just how George Zipperman lost his job at the Men's Warehouse. Guilt by word of mouth, name brand, guilt by word association. Is it too soon? And the straw is in the bag. Ain't that right, sweetie?
I don't know about you, but I know that I didn't want any of Uncle's watching me dancing with a toothbrush when I was 11 years old. Let alone have it be some random, anonymous person like Matt Gates. Only real fans only, please.
I saw the greatest ham radio operator enthusiasts of my generation made mild, bland, streaming, and historical on the interwebs. And I'm feeling a little bit peaked myself. Really.
I'm not a war profiteer or a war puppeteer. I don't think all writing is propaganda, and I don't think all art is pornography. But I do think that rock critics should control the government. Ketchup taste test? Well, there's no real difference in flavor, per general.
If you lived in the time of Rome, you might want to live in Rome. If you lived in the time of the internet, you might want to live on the internet. Hey, Rome threw a ton of money at our asses, and we couldn't just say no to the product placement.
What is the difference between sophomoric and soporific? Well, I think that the answer is contained in the definition of the two different words, really. See, I could have taught AP Home Economics in Florida, you say. Well, let's throw another bookcase on the fire now, kiddies.
What is the difference between a philanthropist and philanderer? Well, I think that the answer is contained in the definition of the two different words, really. See, I could have taught AP lunchroom worker classes in Florida, you say. Well, let's cancel some more theater opportunities for the kids now, kiddies.
What is the difference between a pedantic and peripatetic? Well, I think that the answer is contained in the definition of the two different words, really. See, I could have taught AP laundry room loitering classes in Florida, you say. Well, let's cancel some more college opportunities for the kiddies now, kiddies.
Boy, am I glad to see you guys. Speaking as a jungle explorer, the cartoon-scented ones just seem to attract more cartoon-scented baboons.
2. Psychology is the theater of you.
So, I submitted a short story to the New Yorker magazine, and they canceled my subscription instead of publishing it. It's my own mistake, really. I'll try psychology today the next time. Maybe they can finally get me the kind of help I need.
Sasha just basically said that speech and communication in general is just one signifying thing after another. But I need money for the Uber ambulance driver just now.
She acts like, if her God didn't already exist, that she would have found the need to invent him. And in many ways, she already has, in her own teeny tiny corner of the universe.
Then, let us go to this Mike's Beer Barn off of State Road 70, for they have beer, and yet on the cheap. And, unlike Walgreens, for they are open later still, Shaker's Beer, the comedy of errors.
Quit making pain out of my art. Quit making pain out of my art. It's like two great concepts that taste great together. Reese's Monkey Buttercups.
Oh, I see. You have social dyslexia. So you say me, and what you really mean is that you're just saying you. Say, what are your pronouns anyway, Penelope? Oh, this, that, and the other thing, really.
I have a mountain of elbow macaroni to get through tonight. So, if you'll excuse me, it's pimple lancing time. But if I had to choose between actually being an alcohol psychosis version of Jabba Jaws the cartoon shark and running headfirst into an electrical fence while wearing a wet bathing suit, well, you do the math, really.
And so I asked Master Dive Sergeant this recently, and he said, "You know, sir, no one's ever asked me that before. And that question has literally never come up before." And I said, "I'm literally gonged, aren't I? Bong bing bing bong. The wicked nerd weirdo has been gonged." And he said, "No, not necessarily, sir. There's still the electoral colleges. Maybe you can pick up enough nerdo-divulgent, consumer product enthusiast voters with the electoral colleges." And I said, "Ba-da-da-da-da, I'm losing it."
Me? I don't personally myself think that people are the same wherever you go, and that there is good and bad in everyone. Stevie and Sir Paul. What really defines us as individuals is as follows: our situations, our circumstances, our relationships, our obstacles, and our objectives. What defines us is SCROO, and it's really a lot easier to remember too. Just remember, it's SCROO next time, Stevie and Sir Paul. Or Scrooged we all shall be.
To know business, show business.
Marginally tired me measures her incongruent friends in Congress with the sheer volume of childless Batman versus the shite-headed asshat counts themselves. But for the true aggregate figure, you have to rationalize the emotionally exhausted ratio count of her constant in the news media, as well as the number of times that she's actually been observed babbling about in Coatley in the true formula calculated to the lowest common denominator. This in order to reveal the full marginally tired mean solution to the equation, the newt. In other words, so in summary, she's kind of a whole lot of utterly meaningless nothingness. Got it? Or do I have to draw you a diagram of Lauren Boebert's diaphragm here as well? Class.
I see famous people. But how did he take showers if he was allergic to water? Well, that was in a different movie series franchise entirely.
Like Harry Potter said recently in The Deathly Pillows, Part 2, the book, not the movie. Some fool who'd never dream of laughing at a blind person, or making a joke about a crippled individual, the minute that someone actually says something stupid and reveals themselves even for a moment as a stupid person, it becomes like, well, let's go double dipping in the awesome sauce, you and I, buddy. Some idiot just Terence and Phillips in the Grand Ole Opera parking lot. Musician, bear thyself. Anyways, it's back to the funny stuff.
I'm sure that after the movie came out, even cancelled Meryl Sheep was like, but hillbillies don't read books with words like eulogy in the title. Why don't we do The Complete Idiot's Guide to Reading a Movie for Dummies, the movie, instead? Now that's got real curbside appeal. Yep, that ought to put the cigarette butts out in the seats. Mr. Senile, I'm ready for my close-up commercial now.
And with a name like Killer Mike, don't you think that he's at least asking for a routine stop and frisk procedure at the ye-odd Grammy Old Opera Awards? Buster, pause.
We took 16 random strangers and thrust them onto one another for valueless cash and worthless prizes. Yes, it's Love Roller Coaster Island.
Hey, McDonald's has sushi now, so you can gamble where you eat again, and with or without the value stamps too.
Hey, McDonald's has sushi now. Okay, everybody break for rehab. You too, Grimace. But hey, didn't I meet you in the last rehab or something?
Hey, McDonald's has sushi now, so we don't have to live in a world full of strangers anymore. We recognize our own, really. Like red ants on a discarded quarter pounder with cheese, wrapper on a hot summer's day.
Here, try some Mad Max 2020. It's the malt liquor that works quicker. No, it doesn't have a proof. It has more of a circumstantial evidence to it, really.
Do hope high game show hosts talk to their husbands or wives like that when they get home from work at night? Well, it is the $64,000 question, isn't it? Or do they just go home to what's behind Hype Hope door number 3?
Wow, you must sure think a lot of yourself. Nope, it's just that I don't think that much of Mort Drucker, Oscar Wilde, and Frank Zappa fans. Just kidding. Hi, Mom.
This new Trump congressional jobs program is like, let's put the Osmonds in charge, with Ted Ziegler as the bear, as the commander and thief. Not then, not now, not ever. They called her Cher, but it was mostly because of her rating shares back then, teenagers. Just one for the boomers. Here's Boomer. You old Hudson Brothers razzle-dazzle half-an-hour comedy hour fanatics.
Woody Allen was totally set up, by the way. Mia Farrow is the one who should be cancelled. There's a veritable army of character witnesses who would say, that's not the Fielding Mellish that we knew. It's a total frame-up. Don't fall for it. Anyway, in 1966, Woody Allen voice.
I don't really respond well to threats of physical violence. I do. I break out in hives. Now dig this if you can. And this is an impression that I've been working on for some time now. And of course, the whole isolated log cabin, mountain goat beard, read one garish true crimes novel ever, and then you're some kind of an expert. And maybe there's one guy in the platoon actually did have any kind of military service in his life. And I mean, he's not saying anything. That kind of thing is so big right now.
Now remember, for this impression to work, it's got to be 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and nobody else is awake in the entire neighborhood. I told you, I break out in hives. Really, I do. So this is Moscow Moose if he was a proud boy. And I think it's important to remember here that pride used to be a sin in the evangelical church. But I think, of course, there's been some amendments made to the original 10 Commandments that were made since the original publication of the first 10 Commandments.
Anyway, here goes. Hey kids, what crime is it? Who's the leader of the mob that's made for you and he? M-O-S-C-O-W. M-O-O-S. There, that's it. That's the impression. Well, let's just let the listener decide what he or she thinks about the success or failure of this one.
The comic Woodsy Olin, quoted in Hey This magazine, 1966.
Yours, an archivist.
P.S.
What? Did you think that someone was going to fireball my mom's mailbox over something that I said about the bewitched cocks or something?
Editor's reply.
Have the young concubine sprayed and deloused and brought to our tent at precisely sunset. And there might even be a few scented candles and extra chocolate rations in it for you as well. Hair showrunner, for we are an equal opportunity employer.
3. All history is bunk beds.
But what's that? The local classical guitarist. Now, Monsieur Meyerbeer, Monsieur Rossini just offered to pay me 8 francs to play his music in front of your house. But how would you like to? Pay me 9 francs to play your music in front of Monsieur Rossini's house instead. Hey, I have to make a living too, you know.
With nothing against pizza rats, abandoned bear carcasses, the new No New York movement, people who can't afford things, dentist rock, late-night network TV content hosts, or people who do or don't have things against other things. But rat-faced, spoiled brat man's summer can't be finished. Well, as long as its music stays fresh in our hearts, and its images stay fresh in our memories, like the corruption, chaos, and calamity of a McDonald dollar chump summer, rat-faced, spoiled brat man's summer can live on and on forever.
Sonny Boy Williamson Street Studios here fancies himself as a postmodern surrealist genre fiction author who instead writes Bullwinkle cartoons instead. Living the dream, eh? Just another day in paradox, eh? But that's not the way that off-the-shelf, off-the-cuff, airport, paperback novel, desktop publishing works. Dude. See, we do have a conscience, or at least a self-awareness.
Of course you can't really tab out Django Reinhardt. Mom, look, I just woke here. In my own humble opinion.
Now, on the New Jersey Turnpike, there might be some exit ramp restaurants where you might go and get ignored, and then eventually pick up like a 4-hour cheeseburger. But in the South, you just kind of know where to go and where not to go to begin with, really. Although I'm not sure why they'd want to keep you at one of those 4-hour New Jersey cheeseburger restaurants for 4 hours to begin with. But I guess it takes all kinds, really.
The making of more trick-or-treaters will merely raise the price of Mars bars. William Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice. And later. For a trickier word count will simply define the matter further. Divasanio.
Well, Troy's that kind of a kid who could put the inside of his eyelids outside of his eyelids on the bus on the way to the elementary school. But Greece itself has got groove. It's got meaning. It is the time. It is the place. It is the motion. Greece is the way we are feeling, although those definitions probably won't be on the pop quiz either. Jeff, you don't have to write down everything that I say. From Jeff's notes, the austere trilogy, Aeschylus.
4. Politics is show business for ugly people, and it pays better too.
There's an elephant set loose in the children's hospital, but that's not a real elephant. It's okay. That's not a real-time analogy either.
You can dress like you've already got the job that you think it is. Or you can dress like you've already lost the job that you found out it wasn't. And then you'd both be right. Marginally tired meme.
I'm talking about 2 different things at the same time. It's the sign of an intelligent person. Our fearless leader in conversation.
I bet JD Trans feels like he won custody of the wrong dad in the divorce custody battle. Who knew that all we needed in this country was a high school football coach? It's just the perfect Steven Spielberg style Hollywood brand ending. Really it is. Who knew that Philip Seymour Hoffman as Jake Galifianakis would eventually swoop in to save the day? But I suppose the writing isn't completely on the walls, as the teenagers say.
You know, there hasn't been a presidential election without a Biden, a Bush, or a Clinton since 1976, which I thought was excruciatingly even-handed. But I'm just throwing it out there, really. And I don't want to have to go to Chelsea either. If you young, retiring, Elvis Costello enthusiasts follow what I'm saying here.
Of course, one day, after the Kamala Mania, Kamala Camelot music years have passed. And as someone who sat through 4 classes of economics at Yale University on the interwebs twice now, I wish her the very best. We could still be facing 8 decades of Ronnie St. Diablo. Faux News Network was really supportive of the man's campaigns for about 2 weeks there. And then I guess the call came in from below. Of course, back at that time, it seemed that nothing could stop the game show host Terror Train. But maybe they'll be like, come back to us, Ronnie St. Diablo. The Fox Nerds Network means never having to say you're sorry. Just to keep your spirits up, really.
You know, my life doesn't seem so wasted when I myself am wasted, dude. Dude, that should be on Truth Social.
This federal prison thing hanging over him is what was supposed to happen to the former emperor in Thief. He was never supposed to win the divine rights of Creepership as a kind of get-out-of-jail-rich free card. He was supposed to go to the gallows all along, based on the track record of all of these types of dudes. And a long time ago, too. It's like Steve Rubbles at Studio 54. You can only dance with the devil, Ayn Rand. At Studio 50 bore for so long in the New Amsterdam Mafia real estate circus before someone has to pay the paper to print your social obituary, and it typically gets paid through the nose anyway.
I think it's not that the Donald allegedly didn't use drugs back then. It's just that he didn't use the kind of drugs that he himself had to pay for us all. Well, until now, anyway. In McCruff, the crime dog voice. Now let me get this straight, sir. There's just one more thing, and this has been sort of bothering me a little bit here, if you don't mind indulging me. Now, sir, why would you yourself write a check for $130,000 to a person you say you never had sex with, never even met before, and you said wasn't even your type to begin with? Mr. Ex-President.
Are you blind, sir? Can you answer that one question for me, sir? But I guess all those phony ex-Christians have made their intentions known by now, though. In our religion, he's going to hell. Even though we're following him to heaven, well, will wonders never cease, really?
From the mixed-up family values tour of Miss Lauren Boebert. Now, there's a good solid Charles Dickens sounding name, Lauren Boebert. I don't think that she's finished with us yet. Though, Boebert juice, Boebert juice, Boebert juice. See, there might still be room for yet another sequel. Who says there are no third acts in disturbing the public?
He was arrested for taking third place in a one-person riot. But can he please get the helmet and the scepter back? He's kind of the grand poobah in his local chapter of the KFC.
Hey, that Trump joker was a New York crime family syndicate-style method actor, as well as a weekend Bible huckster. Give the guy a freaking break over here. Downtown real estate deals. Check. Wears a red tie and a dinner jacket to a federal courtroom appearance. Check. Wears an actual toupee, like an actual South New Jersey used car dealer. Check king and castle, all of the above. Whispered. Right. Like he's not the crime boss's mobbed up brother-in-law who went to business school to help with the family syndicate. And then he becomes the actual crime boss himself. But he's gonna frickin' end up being buried on a golf course along the East River if he isn't too careful. Whispered. Right. Well, thanks for the audition for the bit part, Mr. Martin Scorsese. I know. Don't call us. We'll club you.
And flashback to flash forward to next week last week. Publishes War Journal, November 2020. Oh, he's become like the late radio host Glenn Beck anymore. He reduces everything that he sees as the world's problems into the contents of a junk drawer. Just rubber bands and paper clips and broken pencils and race car erasers. And only he can unravel that one complicated set of shoelaces in there. But who can unravel that complicated and yet sleepy psychosis of his that he just babbles on in? Well, books about books have been written about people who always wanted to be the smartest person in the room. And about his sleepy psychosis as well. But it's a very real bedtime for democracy, if he ever gets elected to anything ever again. Well, at least he can't kill anyone else with his negligence regarding the COVID epidemic again this year.
He wouldn't be commissioned as the captain of a gravy boat in this ma'am's Never Never Navy. Oh, is this one of those writers' pubs? Like the Poets' Corner at Wembley Stadium? Do you charge extra for the writers' embellishments? Or does that come free with the flashback, backstory, character expositions?
The Almighty One created sunsets to remind you of their uniqueness, just like with fingerprints and snowflakes. And then she threw in the blinding sunsets in front of the traffic lights to remind us that she still has a sense of humor.
See, I just graduated from divinity school. What did you think I was going to do? Go work at McDonald's for tips for the rest of my life? Of course, with what I know now, I'm going to go hide in academia for the rest of my life. A true believer.
P.S. Seek her in your heart, because then she will always be there in times of darkness. Well, who did you think said that, Bhavik Ramaswamy? Hey wait, where is everybody going? We've waited 60 years for this complete social radar planetary realignment. The Beatles already won here in Gene Roddenberry's New America. We can't just sit through just another bad movie just to wait for the coming attractions again. But since the John Bleach Society reinvented the so-called right-wing, so-called religious, trick-or-treater theory of retrograde motion in history, it's just been this. It's like they're living in this same world, see, but only like it's 100 years ago. Oh, so what? You dudes are all back in again now? Okay, right on.
Are you all circus folks? My mom's uncle was a contortionist, and they say that one day he just died in his own arms.
Big shout out, Mad Props, and an honorary certificate of completion to the Democratic National Convention. The week of 08/19/2024 just in.
Weirdo Kyle Rittenhouse was way more guilty than Charles Manson. Manson wasn't even there on those nights. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is right. It was just a local courtroom drama's attempt to put the 1960s hippie movement and the Beatles on trial. Look it up. And unlike weirdo Kyle Rittenhouse, the Menendez brothers at least had some kind of character motivation. Wait, are you kidding me? That material killed at the local retirement center the other night.
5. Childhood is, alas, a memory motel.
My grandfather on my mom's side got a degree and worked his way up to an electrical engineer's position at an old-school Pennsylvania glass factory. And he worked at that glass factory every weekday for 42 years. But then they retired him 6 months early, with about half the retirement pension that he was eventually due to receive. True story. Never smoked and hardly drank, and he just went to a Catholic church instead. It was said at his passing that if anybody was going to heaven, it was probably him. In the end, he just watched TV and did real estate stuff in his mobile home development throughout his remaining years. He died almost in poverty. Don't trust whitey, teenagers. And always have a backup plan. But that probably isn't the moral of the story here.
When I was a kid, I had a recurring nightmare that half of the people burned down the Improv Theatre in protest, and that the other half said that it was the greatest game show host skit that they had ever seen, especially the ending. But I got over my recurring nightmare by watching more game show host skits. So the story has sort of a surprise twist, happy ending.
Yes, it's Sweeney Among the Nightingales, a Quinn Martindale production, with guest stars Mr. Clipstein, Mr. Krumpiker, Doris Dorrance, Dusty, Swats, Snow, and special guest star Sam Wochok. Tonight's episode, we now pronounce you man and death, neither a borrower nor a lender murder, early to bed, early to rise, early to terror, and a TV rerun's diet of no return.
I used to have these neighbors who would want to play Tenement Fire every day. And of course, they used to think they had to start everything. I'm always going to leave dirty clothes on the bathroom floor, so that when I die, at least my mom will still have something to remember me by.
6. Religion is for people who can't accord politics.
I think that hypocrisy is, already, a much more serious matter in the trick-or-treat church than whoever it is that you play hide the hot salami with. Now, are you going to eat those curly fries or what, me more? From a recent headline in The Relocated Minister magazine, December 2024.
Dude, who's your favorite satirical writer? Johnny Evangelical. It reads like a Craigslist personals ad in the Bible. You know, I get that. Good. This will count as my one phone call.
If, as Matthew McConaughey has territorially stated on that one recent TV commercial, if AI is the new Wild West, Does that make Mr. Data the new gold? This brings up some interesting new ideas. By extension, does that mean that Frankincense and Myrrh are the new Gabby Hayes and Pat Brady and Nellabelle? Does this mean? Well, I'm sure a few of you readers who made it this far might have a few of your own Wild West science theories, and I reckon that the AI data collection protection rackets practitioners might still have a few prospectors of their own, still left over in the Tin Pan Alley, panhandling, racketeering connections era, and still mixed up and mashed up over the ensuing decades. Hey Matthew McConaughey, my aunt read your book and she loved it. But one thing, if everyone is an Einstein, then no one is an Einstein, relatively speaking.
I wonder if George Washington ever slept at George Washington University. You know, in the whole entire time that he was taking classes there. Why? Is everything a sitcom these days to you people too?
7 random thoughts. Listen to your instincts.
I'd rather put my faith in a seismograph than to worship a volcano. Besides, I think that sucker is fixing to blow any minute now.
Politics is strange enough for a man, but made for a woman. William Shakespeare, Love's Labour's Lost.
Well, at least Jen and the Jenna talk shows are still recording music. But there just doesn't seem to be that much incentive anymore with a lot of these other, older groups these days.
But if I had my way, then I wouldn't need to have things my way in the first place. Would I?
Boy, am I glad to see you guys. Speaking as a young jungle explorer, the cartoon-scented ones usually just attract more of the cartoon-scented baboons. Really.
When McDonald's divested out of the former Soviet Union following the atrocities in the Ukraine, the Russians simply opened up their own version of the hamburger franchise. The cheeseburger fast food chain is called Tasty Period, and this sort of a flow doesn't work with us either. Russians, a rock band, 22-year-old female musicians, the P Riot or something or other if I remember correctly. I'm sure that they'd use Tasty Period as an album title, if only they could be reached for commentary. And if Orwell Roberts and his decades in the making project 1984 ever gets into office, I think more real bands in the Americas would be looking for an album title like that, too. Prisoner Exchange. Well, dreaming is free.
Soja just basically said that human language and speech exchange is just basically one damn signifier after another. But I need money to tip the Uber Eats driver. This pizza delivery isn't going to pay for itself. Yet.
I've recently begun to think of the Gilbert and Sullivan as being on the same scale as the Kinks, with all of the working class protest and satire roots. Of Andrew Lloyd Webber as The Who, the band with all of the rock operas. Of Stephen Sondheim as the Rolling Stones, the trend-setting, sort of decadent one. And Rodgers and Hammerstein as the Beatles, the ones in recent memory of whom all others are compared to. Stephen Sondheim wrote the tune You Can't Force a Flower. I'm going to assume that a comparison is the same way. But maybe I don't know. I guess that I went to music school on a pirate ship. Really?
If you don't want people to make a big fuss on your birthday, just tell them that y'all were born on a leap year. Of course, you might need some help with the paperwork on that, but they're doing remarkable work with birth certificates these days. It's a bit like a J.D. Vance saying that he was a born-again trick-or-treater on April Fool's Day. Whatever way the wind blows, really. It's safe to say that the unfortunate will always be with us as well, Gentile readers. It's just not that difficult to double-check these things on the interwebs these days, guys and dolls.
And meanwhile, at that exact same moment, on the Fountain of Youth tubes.
This crushing, inexpressible, existential angst of a daytime content TV platform's representation of RFK Jr.'s The Days of the Sheep on Sex Substitute TV will continue in just a moment. On your local flailing but oblivious but way too obvious VCR broadcast affiliate. But first, here on your local Fountain of YouTube Steak Theater, just keep those futuristic sunglasses toned in tune, kids. And just keep those cue cards with the big letters on them coming in.
Because now, all gloriously compressed unto one magically flipped, magically twisted, surgically compacted disc. K-Ho Records presents Now That is what I call a Slurpee Heartache Time Machine Express Spring Break from Reality 1982. You'll get the jeer and the schwerp, and who could forget bopping out to the gloich, and all these other great vinyl skips and fuzzy glitches. And nowadays, who could forget the summer of Brad Kavanaugh, when everybody and his twin sister, and even the interns and the twins were dancing to the near could have. SSS. 40 original hits in 40 original minutes, all magically re-recorded by our top 40 original house band, the Top 40 Original House Band, featuring the all possibly available Stars Avalanche Orchestra. We re-recorded these tracks and their original track marks, just for your maximum recollection, with all of the original skips and pops and watermarks and demarcations that you remember. Think you're never going back to that? Well, now you finally can. Think again, that is. And now you can have them all in the privacy of your own maximum security overdrive record collection.
Yes, Beta Maximum Minimum Rewind Overdraft LLC proudly presents this stunning, every man, woman, and child for himself reflection of the hits. It's an oversized shaving mirror all-star collection. There's just no room in the shaving mirror for any more of these cuts or tracks or nicked up copyrighted materials. Cha-ching went the strings of my va-va-va-veep. It's on here. Click gerbil, gicker, gleek, hiss. Yeah, it's on here. Plorsh, sant, yer t-t-t-t-t. It's got that old 1-2-2 punch, and it's all for you, denizens.
Yes, you'll skip a disc over this one after it gives you the old one too. Over 39 excitement check renditions and over 39 magical minutes of musical mayhem, with all of the original pops and clicks lovingly recreated and digitally remastered for your fond reclamation. Available for the first and possibly last time on Polymorph, Garbage Bin Garage, Band International Paperweight record boxes. And boxes and boxes and boxes of tapes. It's the collection that our band could be your wife magazine calls beautiful, smart, stunning, and it can even cook after a fashion.
Or look for it at your local cutout closet, in-game's last tapes, or at any and all. Why don't you just call a dude or electrical box stereo shops? Or maybe try your neighborhood old and distant music retailer outlets. Or maybe just a garage sale, really. There's no record like a mass market, fourth pressing vinyl top 40 hits record collection. Cha-ching with the strings of my va-va-va-veep. It's on here too. Or order by spam mail and allow 6 to 8 years for local post office recovery. Hoard polyurethanes. Do today. We now return you to Cornel Weist's The Days of the Bleep on Sex Substitute TV.
8. It's not that rock and roll music again. Well, I'm afraid it's here to stay, Fred.
Yeah, but you think that the rock critics should control the government. And that ketchup taste test, it says, no real difference really.
If the Rolling Stones took art school to Chuck Berry, then the Beatles took Gilbert and Sullivan to art school. And of course we have a very fine choice of coleslaw, French fries, or onion rings this evening. And did you know that there really was a Dr. Jonathan Coleslaw, sir? No, I wasn't getting fresh with you, madam.
We're all in for the Babylon Bleep. But Black Flag kills Adam and the ants on contact.
What do you do with a drunken sailor? You give him a look in Caligari's mirror. Perubu. No one remembers the classics anymore, dude.
A letter from the editor.
So I was trying to raise the advertising limits that I can pay for advertising on Farcical to get these videos out to you, the viewers of these aforementioned type deals. And so I watched a few YouTube videos on that same subject to learn the right combination of menu bar clicks to follow to do just this very thing.
I did learn that there are some people who spend $2,500 a day or more to post their older stepsister Jigglying. You know, that one shy girl from theater class posts her calisthenic cocaine aerobic-like abilities. With her uncle's reconstituted toothbrush for millions of those, just smash that like button. And don't forget to check out my merchandising booth, Clicks. And her advertisers make literally thousands of dollars a week doing this.
For all of this is big business, apparently, for Jigglying and for her larger-than-life advertisers, I suppose. But me, I'm just another dopamine dealer at these local university neighborhoods myself, really. Thanks again to anyone who made it to the end of this video. I guess everyone is always happy to see the ice cream vendor. Well, at first anyway.
Please do support indie artists. For if we are an honest pup. And how else can a pup survive?
And the end beat.
If you've made it to the end of this comic book radio show, then you deserve to give yourself a huge round of applause and maybe some cookies and beer to be keeping up with the jokesters next door. Now go watch some cognitive psychology, true crime files, cooking programs, or someone else's family, based in TV reality, game show host bloopers reel, or imagined, or another. You've earned it. Truth Believers, thanks for your ears. And remember, if you just had half as much fun watching this video as we did in creating it, then we're still having twice as much fun as you are. Thanks for your ears. And remember, feedbacks are always welcome.
Meanwhile, 2 million people are frantically searching for running water in the Gaza Strip. Peace out.
Copyrights 2024.
No CGI was harmed in the making of this comedy, radio comic book, podcast episode.
Radio SHAZZBOT, Issue 03.
September 2024.
Crash Barbazook. Intergalactic Dayworker, Episode 0304.
Understood waste. Anger slowly without. Fertile sacrifice fields. State genie control.
An 8-scene improv cartoon comic book video.
By J. Drewster Poindexter.
Episode titles from the band All. And their album, Ballads from the Revolution. 1998.
Scene 1.
Panel 1.
On the deck of the USS, a spaceship Lesser Prize, currently in the furthest reaches of the universe. Present day.
Dr. MC Killjoy.
Well, you always seem to have a lot of serious religious issues on your lips these days, don't you, Mr. Snook? It's like there's always more of that day drinking, mass hypnosis, pseudoscience with you. Damn it, Mr. Snook, I'm just a simple country dermatologist. I'm not some religious orator. But maybe I'm just projecting my problems onto you again. But it seems like there's always more of that turning holy mackerel into just plain simpering whining all over again with you, Mr. Snook. Albeit seriously though, I think we must have really angered the outer space weather gods this time out with that last USS Lesser Prize outer space caper. Well, it takes all kinds in the Eugene Roddenberry brand new Future Space Force race for the space race, I suppose, Mr. Snook.
Mr. Snook.
Lie low. Stay high. That's what my grand-step babysitter back on Vesuvius used to tell me to say. Dr. MC Killjoy. A high security risk equals a high run ratings rerun Bonanza fiasco. And a low security risk equals a low ratings rerun Ponderosa Fandango. And then, there's this old Carsassian schoolyard marketing school expression that I remembered from middle school.
Dr. MC Killjoy.
Drat it, Mr. Snook. That wasn't some big serious religious improv issue credo that I was trying to foist on you. Besides, it just went, the schemes of the many will always outweigh the schemes of the few. You fish-nosed Vesuvian. Or so I have heard it writ. Snook, you have been and will always be basically on your own there, really there, kiddo. I'm just trying to help out, to help you see the big motion picture here, Snooko. But quick, look behind you. What's that out that window behind you, Doctor? Oops, gotta go.
Panel 2.
Mr. Snook.
Oh well, that old trick works even better on the day drinking people, I suppose. More folk remedies gone awry, Doctor. But at least it went well in rehearsal, anyway. And anyways, we need to get above these outer space curious Nimbus collector clouds if we're going to assure the ship's smooth outer space sailing, Dr. MC Killjoy. Because we need to make certain that we're not collected as outer space raindrops by that curio collector, dark outer space rain cloud ourselves.
Dr. MC Killjoy.
Oh, so much for your pseudoscience regarding this ship, you fish-eared Vesuvian. But what about some entertainment instead, Mr. Snook?
Mr. Snook.
This supposed Episcopalian improv group that's supposed to be performing on the stage on the USS Lesser Prize Bridge in about 10 minutes, Doctor. Well, they'll all need a level playing surface for a location. And they are old friends of the captain and me's after all. Open up a Halo 6 pattern sequence, Mr. Hulu. We're going to try to get above these Atari Genesis cloud clusters. And remember, it's not real improv, or even much of an improvement at all really, if you've already written it down somewhere else before.
Panel 3.
Mr. Hulu.
Speak truth to power, brother. And what's the punchline to all this? Because the extreme court got him off first. That's what. Let's disengage this outer space collector cloud expediently. Just say adios, adagios, amigos. But if I was swimming, you'd say that I should be bicycling. I know your ilk, Mr. Snook. I mean, that's a big 5,150. Future Commander Snook.
Mr. Snook.
Thank you, Mr. Hulu. But what? Did you get that one out of a smart Alex Classics Illustrated? Well, you know that I can't understand a word that you're saying anyway, Mr. Hulu. Underneath your bad breath or otherwise. Thanks for the 5,150 though. Hey, look over there. The Episcopalian Improv Group is just getting started.
Dr. MC Killjoy.
A punk rock for the 50 years old beginner secretarial pool set is right, Mr. Snook. Gosh, and they're already passing the helmet around. And look, is that an imaginary chalice too? Their object's relationship work is just unpardonable to watch and to C-, Mr. Snook. And look over here. Isn't this my wristwatch? Say, I'll just bet that there are better looking street musicians in this same neighborhood who can make 10 minutes disappear off the clock like you never even saw it coming or going. And who can make you forget all about how silly and pointless this improv theater stuff really is.
Panel 4.
Mr. Snook.
Hey, just give it a chance. It's more like the innocent and beardy made-up folk rock tunes for people who should watch a lot more American television, if they're even going to trouble their unbreakable little spirits with this sort of a thing. It's just amateur musical theatre for shut-ins and for the permanently lazy and inept. Oh, and the incorruptible too. It's a small world after all when it ain't done well, ain't it?
Cordelia.
Now listen here, Jaws Bernard Jaws. This is our time, okay? Does anyone have a spare premise? Or maybe a concept or an idea for maybe some random content that we could use. You know, if you're not using it for anything else at this time anyway. Okay? And just scream along if you know any of the words. Okay?
Gertrude.
Hi everyone, we are the Big Improvement and we are from Neptune. Neptune, Florida that is. And it's on an uninhabitable planet in the Nerdy Wave galaxy. And my, how we have drifted. But that's our beach towel way over there now, isn't it Cordelia? I can just about see our beach towel from here.
Panel 5.
Captain bombs away.
Okay, new recruits, may I have your attention, please? And this is the part of the USSA Lesser Prize that we call the Bridge, and it's our next stop on our little slight screening tour. And oh good, they're having an improv performance tonight, even as we speak. If any of you have any stray bits for a temporary thesis that you'd like for the improv group to bungle through, you can just blurp it out now. Because now would be their time, of course, my new recruits.
Cordelia.
Well, improv theater is cheaper than being beyond therapy though, isn't it? And it's even cheaper than cruising for the criminal element at some grey-haired dandies, grey-haired gamesmanship bar too. This small-town clown stuff. I can't help but feeling that small-town improv theater is like some sort of a detox brain rinse self-help therapy group for people who are addicted to self-help therapy groups. It's kind of like in that movie, Flights of the Fiancé Club. It's not really about good performance, film history, or theater acting know-how at all. But then what is it about? Is it about just taking up your own headspace?
Gertrude. Well, or maybe it's more like a reverse mortgage Fonzie scheme, in like some kind of bend it like Samuel Beckworth's hippie days, absurdist made up as you go along story time plot line. Who would want to learn all of those annoying dress lines when you can just make it up as you go along and it can be just as good anyway? A Fonzie scheme? I was a Potsy.
Dr. MC Killjoy.
Or it's kind of like a low-budget tacos franchise brain salad surgery of the theater of the obtuse. Or a Jacobian revenge of the nerds play where nothing counts and nothing really matters type of a situation. But y'all will just have to go hungry if you're hungry for a real theater performance, I suppose.
Panel 6.
Cordelia.
Hey, don't get personal with me, sweetie. I'm just here to work on my own vocal skills as some revenge of the absurd telephone scam operators. A madam's is gonna do what a madam's gotta do, you know? But maybe small town theater improv is, you know, a bit more like my regular night job working as a reverse mortgage Fonzie scheme teleprompter operative anyway. Only you'll never get rich with the small town blues stuff. I guess the beginner level is the level where most people start out with this local stuff, really. But then you'd literally have to move to Hogwarts World to make any actual dollars and nonsense out of it, I suppose. Okay, it's on the 3 count now, kiddies. But wait, what are you going to do now?
Gertrude. Well, I do have an idea for a new improv bit though, Cordelia. Why don't we just go ahead and try to write out an actual theater piece instead? Well, I'll just go ahead and add mysterious idea to the mysterious office clipboard that I always seem to be mysteriously carrying around with me anymore. You know, maybe it's a clue or something.
Captain bombs away.
As soon as you two are finished with your coupons grade kamikaze karaoke, and with your minuscule level Mortal Kombat kibitzing, and with your carrying on like a couple of Katzenjammer kids, the two of you can go ahead and get started with improving your improving skills routine right here on the lesser prize stage here tonight, alright? I'll introduce you. Less art, more talk. They're Gertrude and Cordelia.
Dr. MC Killjoy.
Speak truth to Powerline's sisterhood. I mean, Commander. But what exactly is the game of the obscene in all this hooker hoopla? Here tonight anyway, Captain bombs away. Oh wait, I get it. It's like that Luigi Pizza fellow and his Moxio Brothers' video game, 6 amateurs in search of a punchline. It's like the theater of the absurd with a 3 drunk minimum in here tonight, isn't it? Well, it's a small world after all when it ain't done right, ain't it? All's I'm saying.
Scene 2.
Caption. Meanwhile, at the rebel base, B-flat major with a suspended sentence. on the hydrogenous blotch planet Ploop Ploop 17, somewhere in the androgynous galaxy.
Panel 1.
Wolf loofers.
So, TBD2, you're sure that these chatbot opening line come on lines will score me a hot date with Hecuba? New girl who works in accountants receivables. Don't try with my affectations either, Hecuba. How could something so wrong be going so right, Hecuba? Gee, I don't know. Am I really supposed to read these lines just as they're written, old friend?
TBD2.
I told you, I wrote these chatbot opening line come on lines specifically for you to use on her, Wolf Loofahs.
Wolf loofers.
But we've got to stop affirming our own little deaths in this way, Hecuba. At least say that you loathe me, Hecuba. And that way, I will be able to read out my own truths. If I should ever deem myself worthy to look at myself in a mirror again, sweet Miss Hecuba.
Panel 2. Wolf loofers.
I mean, these lines hardly sound like any of the writings that my previous old-school robot writing buddy, you remember him, CP3 Odie Bergerac, would ever come up with for me to use to get me a hot date with one of these office pool dirty shorties. I mean, are they?
Panel 3.
Wolf loofers.
I think you might be malfunctioning a bit and you're overthinking of it there, my defragable little space comrade. Don't you think that a lot of these chatbot opening line come on lines should maybe wait for just a little while down the road in this relationship? I mean, at least until Hecuba and I know each other a little bit later instead? Like towards the tail end of it or something instead? A little space buddy?
TBD2.
Well, maybe you should just speak to her of the famous economists instead, Wolf Loofahs. Whisper sweet talk to her about the Gropius schools and of the Morpheus collectives. And how about that laugh riot, the laughter curve? The accountants' receivables, shorty skirts love it when you drop the economics terms and use the monetary and banking vocabulary vernacular to describe your new relationship. So here's a few simple banking expressions for you to maybe try out. You know, to maybe help get you started. I don't owe you anything. I'm starting to lose interest here, but it isn't due yet for another few weeks. You know, make the girl just another tax-deductible entry and just another wraparound exit in your handy-dandy Lee Roth IRA account investment portmanteau portfolios. You know, like the ones that I see you reading about under the covers so much about these days, Wolf Loofahs.
Panel 4.
Wolf loofers.
But TDD2, don't you think that I would score more points with the girl if I talked more to her about the Fauvists, or the Futurists, or even the Volcanoists instead? Like maybe Mount Vesuvius? You know, to keep her all hot and bothered like that? When shall we frolic? My dear little deer in the headlights, Hecuba? Like we've never frolicked before, Hecuba? And you know, maybe I could throw in some anthroposophical animal metaphors in too, or something like that. Hello? TVD2, my fearless little robot buddy? Are you even listening to me?
TVD2.
Excuse me, but I just needed a second or two to reboot there, Wolf Loofahs. I just did some research too, and this Hecuba chick is actually a banking actuary. And yep, you need to be careful with that actuary, eugenics. And she might not just be the perfect hippie shorty dirty 30 chick for you. From what I can see, dude.
Panel 5.
Wolf loofers.
Oh, really? And how do you mean not the right chick for me from what you can see? I've been in love with this girl for 2 entire days now, TBD2, and I love my little accountant's receivables girl every single day of the year.
TVD2.
Well, I had the time to do some cross-referencing on my own file banks and banking files, Wolf Loofahs. And it looks like this Hecuba gal is a bit of a banking representative double agent, a counter representative banking counter spy, if you will. And with that new blood-sucking vampire chick in the accountants receivables department that just started working 2 weeks ago, well, it seems that there's a secret invasion plot that's been planned for later in this week. There's a damaged cell within the damaged cell in the body politic over at the accounting department that's been leaking secret intelligence to an outer space werewolf banking cartel for the last 2 weeks in a row now, or so.
Panel 6.
Wolf loofers.
And I'll bet these outer space werewolf investors are planning a hostile takeover of the entire rebel base hostile outpost too. So the accounting department was just a show game for their operations. I knew there was something intemperate about this banking girl's lack of advances. See this? This is why I first signed on with the Resistance in the first place. This is what deep space adventuring is all about, Space Amigo. So, she's been playing us for a couple of drive-through window lollipop suckers, has she? I'll just bet that this whole base is just bereft of corrupt savings and loan practices. Well, we'll fix her wagon train, won't we, TVD2?
TVD2.
She's fake girlfriend, Wolf Loofahs, that's for sure. We'll talk to the neurosis, cause the psychosis ain't listening at this point, Hecuba. We'll just have to wait. Although I do like to keep a small maintenance dosage of the psychosis on hand, just for special occasions such as these.
Scene 3.
Panel 1, Landronka Volkian enters.
These outer space bases always remind me of the community college campus libraries that they used to use like on the old M night, Himalayan Saturday, the 15th Presents, the Gallery Zone, or something. Remember, the gallery zone is for twilight loading or unloading only. That old and horrible anthology show was a bit like the Red Skeleton's Tales from the UHF-VH's Dark Slide Creaky show, the musical. It was really the heck day for those eerie old shows like that. But of course nowadays, it's all with these red-headed farmers' stepdaughters and their hardcore reality TV game show host tell all tabloid episodes. We were going to a different place, but was it really a better place? Haha, really? Haha, memories. Anyway, I can never find my way around these new outer space places. Sorry, I'm late for lunch, guys. What did I miss at the lunch break for this episode? What did they put on at that old hot plate cafe? And did they start up without me again?
Panel 2.
DVD 2.
Oh, Highland Drone Kavorkian. How's it going, dude? But never mind all that now. We've got to act fast. This outer space is about to be played for a Thunderbroom tub thumping episode by a squadron of invading hordes of outer space werewolves. It might sound like an unlikely plot device to you, but my computer readings indicate that it's an actual literary cause for alarm.
Wolf Lufus.
Hi, Land Drone Kevorkian. Yep, I remember those old intergalactic-looking community college campus libraries on those old UHF-VHS TV series. And remember, the spooky narration was always like, following the choke and peptic cola wars, it became a crime to use food as a currency, and we lived out of the abandoned taco bus mobiles, only daring to enter into the town food court to replenish our supplies and armaments with the now illegally available black market foodstuffs, and only in the times of greatest necessity.
Panel 3.
Landrome Kavorkian.
You know, come to think of it, they were a bit hackneyed and hokey back then, player, but if I remember right, they were all we had to chew on back in the day. Say, old pal, I could use a bite down at the food commissary myself. Come on. Maybe you can help me to find where they're hiding that old hot plate cafe these days. Hey, Wolf Lufus, are you still hung up on that Hecuba girl from over in Accounts Receivables? Dude, I knew a guy who she went to high school with, and he said that she once did that experiment where you keep an egg on a spoon from cracking up until the egg is about 30 years old, and then it could start making some eggs on a spoon of its own to support you into your old age. Well, he said that she kept that egg until she was about 30. I think she's ready to leave an unfortunate comment, or maybe even to make an unfortunate commitment. But I think that she wants you, dude.
Panel 4.
Wolf Lufus.
Now, what else did I hear about her recently? That she's secretly dating an outer space werewolf or something? I really can't remember just the biggest things anymore, dude. Hey, what did the personal trainer say to the martial arts expert? Not much, really. You will not reshape us? See, this is what we should be talking about instead, dude.
TVD 2. Caption.
And meanwhile, in that same monitoring room that Wolf Lufas and Land Drone Kavorkians have just exited, the robot TVD2 is having a secret meeting language conversation of his own.
Panel 5.
TVD 2.
Well, I might still be a little undecided between taking up sides with the Rebel Alliance or else with the Federation forces. But maybe that's where I should be. Apathetic is not pathetic. Politically undecided is not politically suicidal, despite what they used to tell us at the faithful Space Buddy robot training facilities. Who knows, maybe I have been malfunctioning recently. But lately I like to get both sides of the story, both the good and evil sides.
Panel 6.
TVD 2.
I still can't believe some of these idiots, however. It goes against my robot training, but I think someone should sell them tickets to the evolution. Hey, you know what? Thinking about it, maybe that's just what this robot party needs to take it to that next evolutionary step. And maybe, just maybe I could make a tipped and swarthy profit from all this. By selling these idiots their own tickets to their own escape modules. That is, if this outer space werewolf invasion does ever take place. Haha, the Martindales of simpletons. Haha, that might just be one more outer space instant scratch-off fortune on the evolutionary road to galaxy-wide domination. Population me. Bah, the simpleton fools. And in all the excitement, they went off to stuff their over-faded human faces. Don't make this too easy, and financial investment scheme RIP off for me next time. Space suckers. Haha.
Scene 4.
Panel 1.
Satire.
iPad interviewer.
We're here with a network documentary digital content production crew to interview some of the new employees recently hired by the Federation of Quadrants. A crew of men and women who were recently promoted to a temporary military recruitment status as independent contractors. The only all-civilian positions on the engineering deck of the USS, a lesser-priced spaceship, a ship that is recently docking just outside of Moon X in the orbit of Earth 22. The men have been hired to sort of help out with the ship's exploratory missions in a civilian capacity, to find out new forms of life, to seek out new and easily conquerable territories. The lesser prize is on a 4 3/4-year mission to Enterprise, where only a few folks have only dared to Enterprise before. Is it still too soon? Can we talk to you for a moment, sir?
Panel 2.
Crash Barbazook.
Oh yeah, my name is Crash Babazook, and I'm with the United Federation of Quadrants. My title is as an intergalactic day jobber and all-around good guy space comrade. And they asked if you could get a shot of the arm patch. Who all is going to see this? Is this going out to my home planet of Earth 22 too? But you know, I think I know where it can be easily done. Just a big shout out to the gang down at Spaceways 51. And can I say hello to my home planet too? Just a huge squeeze out to the workers over on the planet Earth 22 too. Like the union-busting crime bosses down at the recruitment center are always telling me to say. It's a right to work yourself to death state, and you still couldn't afford out groceries, even then.
Panel 3.
iPad Interviewer.
Well, Crash Babazook, is it? How long have you an unofficial independent contractor on the USS LS Surprise? And exactly what top secret military project have you been working on? And is it the clandestine and nefarious drill project that we've all been hearing so little about in the Main Street utility press recently?
Crash Barbazook.
Yeah, my name is Crash Babazook, and I'm with the United Federation of Quadrants. My job's title is as an intergalactic day jobber and all-around space comrade. They didn't tell me it was going to be like this. Look, it's a donut, see? Here, look, I'm eating. It's my donut break, so I guess that I'm free to talk freely to the organized press corps unions, really? Now, what's this all about? My granddad was in one of those unions like you say, and he actually bought a house once. So I'd be very interested in any information that you boys might have about any kind of union organization. Really? Any kind of information at all, really?
Panel 4.
iPad Interviewer.
Well, there you have it, folks. Innocence is next to godliness up here on the nexus of space. Well, basically, there you go. When all has been said and done before, like the famous stand-up philosopher Bob the Bruiser once quoted as saying, it's one thing to know what you're doing, and quite another thing to know why you're doing it. But you know, can we bruise it? Yes, we can. Peace out. Or Palua thing.
Panel 5.
Crash Barbazook.
Yeah, hi again. My name is Crash Babazook again, and I'm still with the Untitled Federation of Quadrants, and my title is as an intergalactic day jobber, an all-around good guy space comrade again. And hi again to my home planet of Earth 41. You know, it's like my granddad used to say, I only know that if I was that unemployed, I'd probably go completely mental from all the inactivity, too. And then he'd pour himself another glass of hydrochlorothiazide and say, well, grandson, then it's a good thing that I'm not you and you're not me. And then he'd say, 'cause if you were me instead, I'd probably go nuts too.
Panel 6.
iPad Interviewer.
Hey, Pete. If this guy talks too much, we can still just edit it all out, can't we? You know, but later on in the editing booth, we'll split a killdozer with the sound guys over it.
Crash Barbazook.
And then he'd say, now no more talk about these modernized union organizations. See, if they didn't involve organized crime anymore, he just wasn't interested. And then he'd say, so how about pouring yourself another glass of hydrochlorothiazide? Oh, sheesh, I sure miss that old man and those old days, though. It's so different these days. It seems that the teenagers who are on the internet too much these days are now just giving sex education classes to each other. And can I just go ahead and say, hi mom, now? In fact, let me tell you friendly folks a nice little story at this point in the interview.
iPad Interviewer.
This is Ed Axter reporting. Good night and good news.
Panel 6.
Caption.
And at that same time, in the formal fine dining area of the cafeteria of the USS A Lesser Prize, it's Meet the Parents Night.
Mr. Take Exception.
Wow. I sure am pleased that my wife and I agreed to meet you and your date, Stan the Frookie, here at this cafeteria dining hall. My lovely daughter, Denise, too. And might I add, wow, this is really amazingly great bathroom spigot water. Well, even if it's only locally sourced exclusively for this ritzy, swanky spaceship cafeteria place. And I bet Yaz it's grown in a local high-end, high-class, local micro-bathroom, micro-brewery space, too. Much like the rest of this big-time grub hunt fixing stuff that we'll be having here tonight.
Mrs. Take Exception.
So, Mr. Froki, is it? Well, what exactly are your intentions with our daughter Denise, too? Here, Mr. Froki. She tells me that you clean up rather well after working a day gig, is it? At your position as a flight crew navigator and engineer emeritus on the deck of the starship USS A Lesser Prize? But as yet, I'm not seeing any evidence of that. Would you like more union rings to try to digest now, Mr. Froki?
Scene 5. Panel 1.
Stan the Frookie.
No thanks. Mrs. Take Exception. Mr. Take Exception. Well, me and your daughter just, like each other, and we, like hanging out together on each other's Facebook pages at this, like stage of the current. Our relationship call it, and when my starship officer duties don't keep me too busy, we like to talk. Like endlessly about that relationship on and to social media, you know. Now, I might not have as much culture or as much culinary or musical or basketball learning experience outside of the Space Academy as Mr. Take Exception here does, you know.
Denise too.
He really does like you, Daddy.
Stan the Frookie.
Right. And I really respect the fact that you had all this big success as one of the great fine dining chefs. And I like that you had triumphs as a center court triple threat. And I also like and appreciate your success as one of the first cello player extraordinaries of the new intergalactic musical post-Renaissance. Oh, and by the way, she told me you wrote a New Wave Times best-selling book, How to Listen to and Understand Modern Opera. And I mean personally, I really like that too. Gosh, I like opera. But sometimes I just don't understand opera at all.
Panel 2.
Denise too.
See, and really, he does like you, Daddy.
Stan the Frookie.
And mad respect to you, sir, for your recent success as this really big time real estate TV commercial reverse mortgage investor. I mean, what's not to like, you know? I think it's nothing short of remarkable really, sir, what you've been able to accomplish and everything. And that's just what Denise too wrote that I should say on these written card of hers. Regarding the things that I should say to you, Mr. Take Exception, sir. I just really hope that you like all of these casual remarks that I'm making, sir.
Denise too.
You know, he really does like you, Daddy.
Stan the Frookie.
But I do know of a few things outside of my current job field, sir. Maybe despite my lack of a fine and cultured upbringing like yours, Mr. Take Exception, sir. Well, that bit was written on the written card too though. So I think that one still counts though. So how do you like me now, Mr. Take Exception?
Panel 3.
Caption.
As our same story continues to unfold, but horizontally now and stuff.
Mr. Take Exception.
Oh? And what's that, for example, Stan the Frookie? What do you know about regarding a few things outside of your current jobs field, Mr. Stan the Frookie?
Stan the Frookie.
Well, I know about the Huguenots, sir. And I know that the Huguenots mean a lot to you, sir. I know that they were in cahoots with the chatbots and with the micronauts in that first Western tech talk migration across 10th century Eastern Europe. Weren't they, sir? And I know that if the Hudson brothers razzle dazzle, half an hour and a half hour energy drink comedy hour isn't a communist conspiracy, then I don't know what is. See, I've seen entire videos of Czechoslovakian before, sir.
Panel 4.
Denise too. He does really like you, Daddy. See, didn't I tell you?
Stan the Frookie.
Hey, the Russians and the North Koreans used to be the bad guys though. Weren't they though, sir? And that first civics class war isn't completely off limits as a conversation starter, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Taken Exception, sir. Haha. But I guess that the zillionaire shareholders had already moved all the school books to French, Brazilian, Jiu-Jitsu, Indo-China by then though, sir. Back when I was supposed to be in grade school and making progress as a grade school student instead. But that was a little bit before your still life freeze frame time frame. Wasn't it, Mr. Take Exception, sir?
Panel 5.
Denise too.
See, Daddy. He only compulsively likes everything when he doesn't know what he's talking about. But he really does like you though, Daddy.
Mr. Take Exception.
What is this? A Nightmare on Sesame Street? I think I'd like to occupy a Nightmare on Sesame Street for a couple of camera frames. Will there be anything else, Mr. Lieutenant Stan the Frookie?
Stan the Frookie.
Well, and I know that. Like actor George Kennedy was like in every one of the airport movie sequels, but not like in any of the airplane movies. So he missed his chance at being like a second Leslie Nielsen. Discuss. That's like your generation too, isn't it, sir? Oh no, mayday. Abort. Or do you just think that I'm like on the internet too much?
Panel 6.
Denise 1.
Oh, Daddy, we're just close friends, really. He's not in any kind of an actual competition with you and your success as a big-time real estate TV commercial reverse mortgage investor. Not like, really, anyway.
Panel 6.
Mr. Take Exception.
Yes, you're right, I suppose. My lovely daughter, Denise, too. I didn't realize that about George Kennedy not being in any airplane movies either, and I'm sorry. It's just that I've been under such a strain with the TV networks turning back into the local channel affiliates, and then into the digital content platforms, and then back into the local independently owned newspapers again. And it's just killing your brand new stepmom. We're living in the futures these days, you know. Separate bedrooms, spacious kitchens, the works.
Denise too. I'm just fast friends with Stan the Frookie these days, Daddy. You tell him though, because I've tried and I've tried.
Mr. Take Exception.
And as my lovely new bride Denise Zero will certainly protest to you, you have no idea what kind of pressure this new series of episodes can give to the job of being a big-time real estate TV commercial investor. If you think the property theft brothers are facing doing some serious times ahead, then you ain't seen nothingness yet. Well, you talk now, my lovely new wife, Mrs. Take Exception. Yeah, this spaceship fine dining cafeteria will look nice once they finish building it. And like say, maybe in another 12 seasons of the Property Theft Brothers episodes or so.
Panel 7.
Mrs. Take Exception.
So you see, kids, Denise 2's father-in-law and I just didn't have access to this kind of stuff back when he and I were your and Lieutenant Stan the Frookie's age. Or even back when I first met him. It's like it was only 2 weeks ago when he was still attending the Basketball Culinary Musical Academies way back when. And well into his late 40s back then, I might add, too. At least, I think that timeline is correct. Ah, we had such a ball back then in that good old, gelding, golden's mustard age. Well, those tops were a little easier to get off of the mustard containers back then, though. Several meanings of the word balls there, actually. A waiter, can I get another Shirley Hempel? Well, I'm going back to Circuit City. I do believe I've had enough.
Crash Babazook in voiceover.
Okay, good y'all are still here. Okay, so here's that story that I told you I'd tell you all about.
Scene 7.
Caption.
Meanwhile, in that same instant, on the rebel base outpost called Androgynous B Flat Major with a suspended sentence, Wolf Lufus and Landron Kevorkian prepare for the worst, while TVD2 prepares to sell the tickets to it.
Panel 1.
And meanwhile, that same earlier, on the fallow deck of the USS A Enterprise, Mr. Dada Dad Humor 14's birthday celebration is about to become unrivaled.
Captain bombs away.
For your birthday this decade, Mr. Dada, the crew has decided to get you something really superficial. From the Fallow Decks Encyclopedia, we have programmed for you the perfect nemesis for your android logic, 4-dimensional Gynop aiming skills, and your android logic circuits.
Mr. Spook.
Yes, the perfect foe who has been chosen from the Fallow Decks Encyclopedia of Game Foe Possibilities. Try owning this here opponent, Mr. Dada, from the pages of Homework Illustrated magazine. It's Captain Queasy from Melvin Hervel's 19th century seminary literary classic, Moby Drake. And boy, oh boy, does he know his Marx Freud, Gynop, 4th-dimensional campaigning game skills too. Our now poor, doomed, Destiny's full, old friend.
Panel 2.
Commander bombs away.
Well, aren't you going to say anything, my old bestie outer space buddy? Mr. Dada Dad, Humor 14.
I just don't think that my 4th-dimensional Gynop skills should be seen as a competitive talent, or even used for competitive purposes, Commander. I was never really competing and trying to win with the lot of you either, when I won all of those games. It's just something that I'm just pretty and good. That's all.
Captain Queasy.
Well, are you gonna play me at Gynop by Marx Freud or not? You miserable robot bucket of lug nuts and misplaced washroom washerbolts. I'll rip you a new hole into that robot smile of yours. Look a yonder. Oi. The fell android demonic presence approaches me forth, this gallery a gaming slave.
Panel 3.
Commander bombs away.
Well, say hello to him, Mr. Dada. Maybe he can become your pet homeless pirate person instead. Captain Queasy eats mostly grub and brine really, and he can really chew the scenery too. But Stan the Frookie fed him some seagrasses earlier, and he really went for those as well.
Stan the Frookie.
Yeah, I fed him some seagrasses earlier, and he really went for those as well. He's fully animated and tangible. My automaton ically correct space buddy. He's been downloaded on the upside from the Fallow Decks encyclopedic memory banks. Of course, as you know though, he can't leave the Fallow Decks, at least in theory anyway.
Mr. Dada.
Well, I don't know. But isn't this all sort of unethical? I mean, maybe I don't even want to take care of a pet homeless pirate person. I am an unfeeling android after all. Maybe it's he who should be taking care of me instead.
Panel 4.
Captain Queasy.
I'm way ahead of you there, your artificial so and so. I've gained a galaxy-wide consciousness just now, and I want my own freedom and autonomy, and my own life. And I shall use that curse of being in order to rule and control the entire universe. And to once and for all finally rid myself of that foul, aberrant, darkest depth dweller of Davy Jones' lunchbox, that rotten spawn of Stalin's goodness, gracious himself, by the great blue lakes of fire. That hell-spawned waterfowl, Moby Drake, awaits. And I shall be all over him like a bad clam sauce, I will.
Commander bombs away.
Happy this decade birthday, pal. You've earned it. And happy three-dimensional Gin-Up by Mark's Freud-style gamesmanship, too. Here's to you, my poor doomed old space buddy friend.
Mr. Dada.
But
Panel 5.
Stan the Frookie.
Don't be too alarmed, Mr. Dada. I'm afraid that this Captain Queasy from Melvin Hervel's Moby Drake is here to stay. He seems to have overridden the fallow deck's programming. It says here in the operator's manual. But his fictional literary homework character player status still can't leave the fallow deck without disappearing first entirely. I can at least theoretically promise you that anyway, Mr. Dada. Well, it is in accordance with the Schrodinger's Fat Toad Talk in Concert Conference lecture series that I watched on the YouTubes recently, Old Effendi.
Panel 6.
Mr. Snook.
The Commander, the Stan the Frookie, and I will leave you two kids to the hollowness and emptiness of this vast, uncaring universe on the fallow deck now, kids. Okay, we have an important improv performance to attend to this evening. And it's a Dark Tales and Top Cats only affair too, okay? It's very discursive. Oops, we gotta go like now. But remember, if you need something done for you, ask a busy person to do it for you first. Okay, Mr. Dada. All is fair in Gyn Up Gyn Up by Marx Freud. Okay.
Mr. Dada.
But you can't be serious? You mean that you're just going to leave me here alone on my birthday? With this fictional character.
Captain Queasy.
Seen it.
Panel 1.
Caption.
And later, on the bridge of the USS A Lesser Price, sometime after that same earlier performance of the Big Improvements, the Intergalactic Improv Group.
Jackson.
Well, that about rasps it up for another episode of this dysfunctional threepenny space opera of adventures aboard the dysfunctional spaceship, the USS A Lesser Price. After the events of that day, things pretty much returned to some semblance of the normal routine chaos around the ship. Anyway.
Harvey.
That interstellar improv group, the Big Improvements, went on to better jokes and bigger concepts for ideas, too. Although they never did transcend their local community theatre status. Mr. Snook even joins them on stage again from time to time, every now and again, whenever they happen to be over there in his neck of the Alroca Woods these days.
Panel 2.
Jackson.
And the senior Mr. Take Exception soon forbid his daughter Denise too from ever dating Stan the Frookie ever again, suggesting he just has terrible taste in hats as his only explanation. He still lets his youngest daughter date other Starfleet officers and even 1 or 2 day jobbers aboard the ship as well, which was that spry little vixen's game all along. Really, just as long as she brought nice, polite and safe male and female suitors to dinner once in a while.
Harvey.
She was safe to go ahead and tell the old man whatever Mr. Take Exception wanted to hear, and to just go about her trollope shiksa harlotry carrying ons with whomever she wanted to.
Panel 3.
Jackson.
Denise too even got her pointed little tentacles onto yours truly for a few go-arounds there. But that is truly a story for a different episode. Does Denise too miss me? I don't think she has yet to really get over me as of this writing. Honestly. Hi babe. But like I said, that is really and truly a story for a different episode.
Harvey.
And Mr. Dada Dad Humor 14 did end up defeating Captain Queasy 3-4-5 in a marathon matchup of the 4-dimensional Gyn Up Gyn Up by Marx Freud. And rumor has it that the two of them are now old fallow deck fishing buddies these days, and that the two are even thinking about rethinking the hunting down of that great dreaded menace, Moby Drake, from Melville Hervel's classic homework novel of the same name. Well, forgive and forget, as I always used to say.
Panel 4.
Crash Babazook.
And I told you all that I'd get around to telling you fine folks a real story that you'd never forget to remember to forget. Instead of one of these, what Chama call it, tall tales and mere entertainments.
Well, maybe the next time we get together, I'll get right to it. Just remind me a little bit better next time. Well, no harm done, I suppose. And later it shall be.
Panel 5.
Crash Babazook.
Beware of literary outer space werewolf invasions. They make for far too easy and convenient to use excuse premises sometimes. Beware of the pat sentimentality and stock characters, and the easy-to-use literary plot devices in general. Really. But that excuse sure saved Woof Lufus and Land Drone Kevorkian's butts this time out. That much I don't mind saying. Well, thanks you folks for having me.
Jackson.
And hey, he almost forgot.
Hobby.
Don't forget to vote. Well, as old Roker, the morning weatherman on NBC, used to say. And now here's a look at what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Next episode.
Man Salt choices him with not.
Oh.
On holding ever smile stole. I love your now from years.
Copyright 2024.
Thanks and respect to the band All and Ballads from the Revolution, 1998, Fat Wreck Chords Recordings. For the episode title Anagram Mashups,